Chapter 1279. Fortunately, she had acquired many valuable possessions over the years, leaving her with no need to resort to pawning for money. Reluctant to part with her exquisite jewelry, she carefully selected a handful of porcelain bottles and jade ornaments, entrusting Zhao Zhai with the task of pawning them for much-needed funds. As she clutched these precious items, her frustration got the better of her, leading to another scolding directed at Zhao Shu. Accompanied by these valuable assets, Zhao Zhai headed to the local pawnshop. Regrettably, he shared the same unfortunate trait as Ms. Qin, a lack of knowledge regarding the true worth of his possessions. Unbeknownst to them, a single pair of porcelain vases alone could fetch a minimum of 50,000 liang, with the other pair worth 40,000 liang. The pawnshop's manager and staff possessed keen discernment. Not only could they assess the value of items, but they could also gauge the character of their clients. Their instincts immediately identified this young master as an inexperienced and perhaps naive individual, merely from his body language. These were all lucrative opportunities knocking at their door, and they had no intention of letting them slip by. Consequently, Zhao Zhai's possessions, which could have been valued at 180,000 liang or more, were appraised at a mere 80,000 liang. Once the necessary 100,000 liang had been collected, Zhao Zhai had no choice but to proceed to the mulberry garden to offer his apology, accompanied by butler Zhao. To his chagrin, Uncle Qing received him, intensifying Zhao Zhai's sense of humiliation as if Uncle Qing were a servant who had betrayed his master. However, Uncle Qing found this reaction comical, reminding Zhao Zhai that he belonged to the Zheng family, not the Zhao family. Following a formal apology and payment of compensation, Zhao Zhai hastily departed, while Zhao Shu observed the unfolding drama with great interest. The Zhao family's lively affairs had cost them dearly, slicing away half of their holdings. If the silk trade did not perform well that year, their wealth would dwindle rapidly, potentially jeopardizing their standing as the wealthiest family in Yangzhou, and even leading to a financial collapse akin to a landslide. 2 days later, Zhao Shu approached Uncle Qing with a solemn request. None of the silk produced in Ms. Zheng's mulberry garden would be sold to the Zhao family. Ms. Zheng's suspicions about the Zhao family's malevolence were not unfounded. Why engage in business with those who sought to harm the mulberry garden? Zhao Mu, though seething with anger and resentment, refrained from publicly censuring Ms. Zheng's abbey. His own reputation was at stake after all. Instead, he chose to reprimand Zhao Zhai privately and began seeking alternative families to cultivate mulberries and rear silkworms. Zhao Mu disapproved of his wife and son's actions, having thrived in Yangzhou for many years thanks to the Zheng family's support, which had ultimately made him the wealthiest man in the city. Consequently, he had attracted envy from many quarters. Now his fortunes were dwindling, and he found himself a target for others' ambitions. As a result, his plan to sign contracts and purchase silk faced considerable obstacles. Prices were artificially inflated, and sellers insisted on receiving the full amount up front, refusing to negotiate. Silk always found its buyers, and Zhao Mu, infuriated and frustrated, had no choice but to begrudgingly pay the full price. He resolved to prepare for the coming year, when the mulberry fields would yield their harvest. However, this approach strained their cash flow, leaving the family with empty accounts and forcing them to sell some of their cherished possessions. With their cash flow disrupted, the Zhao family faced an ominous predicament. It was as though the mountains had crumbled and the earth had split beneath their feet. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1280. Silk. Zhao Shu stood on the sidelines, determined not to miss this opportunity. The fate of the Zhao family hung in the balance, and it seemed almost certain that their decline was imminent. As expected, when the silk began to flood the market, a significant number of families who had previously signed contracts with Zhao Mu had a change of heart. They preferred to pay double the deposit rather than sell their silk to him. This turn of events left Zhao Mu torn between anger and anxiety. A considerable number of families reneged on their commitments, with about 16 or 17 of them opting to pay the double deposit. Faced with this predicament, Zhao Mu found himself in a difficult position. Taking the matter to the authorities was an option, albeit a challenging one. The involvement of so many families complicated matters, and the magistrate was unlikely to favor Zhao Mu's case. Several days had already passed since the issue arose. Furthermore, if he dared to expose this situation, he risked alienating himself from potential future collaborators. This was a decision that required careful consideration from all parties involved. In light of these circumstances, Zhao Mu had no choice but to approach the manager of the weaving workshop and seek a supply of silk from Ms. Zheng's mulberry garden. The frustration mounted as Ms. Zheng's mulberry garden thrived this year. The leaves were fresh and abundant, the silkworms were plump and vigorous, producing copious amounts of silk. The resulting cocoons were flawless and snow-white, clearly of superior quality. Ms. Zheng's mulberry garden was poised to yield 30% more silk than the previous year. After accounting for expenses, this would translate into an additional 200,000 liang, a substantial sum that rarely came by in a single year. Zhao Mu couldn't help but feel vexed by the situation. Ms. Qin's frustration deepened upon hearing the news. She couldn't help but think that the money rightfully belonged to her and her son. We've been tending to that mulberry garden for years, helping it thrive. The earnings should be ours, and we must reclaim what's rightfully ours. We can't allow them to take it without compensation, she asserted passionately. Zhao Yi found himself at a loss for words at times, considering his mother's insistence on such seemingly unreasonable ideas. After all, the mulberry garden already belonged to them, and this situation had nothing to do with outsiders. He couldn't hide his irritation, but what good would that do? His mother intended to approach the Zhao family to rectify the situation. Zhao Shu from Hangzhou, Yangzhou, and Huzhou agreed to sell the silk, but they insisted on a 30% price increase based on market rates. Furthermore, they refused to accept an advance payment, demanding the entire sum up front, or the deal was off. Zhao Mu's anger flared, and he resorted to harsh words, accusing them of bullying. Zhao Zhai and Zhao Yi shared their father's annoyance and joined in the verbal exchange, criticizing Zhao Shu for his apparent ingratitude. Zhao Yi expressed his determination to source silk from Hangzhou, Huzhou and Suzhou, believing he could secure supplies from all three locations. Zhao Zhai also expressed his willingness to contribute to this effort. After some consideration, Zhao Mu concurred with their plan. They sold more assets, giving each son 100,000 liang to purchase silk from Su and Hu states. While Zhao Mu remained in Yangzhou to oversee the workshop, he needed to repurchase silk from the silkworm store promptly to keep production running smoothly. The urgency of the situation was clear. They had to act swiftly, or the silk supply would fall short, jeopardizing their ability to fulfill last year's orders. Failure to deliver on those orders would spell disaster for the Zhao family. Chapter 1281. Unthinkable. The workshop descended into chaos due to the severe lack of labor. Reassembling the workforce once they dispersed would prove to be a formidable challenge. Zhao Zhai and Zhao Yi faced substantial obstacles during their procurement efforts. The Su and Hu states were plagued by significant negative karma, and their annual demand for locally produced silk made it nearly impossible to sell any to outsiders. When foreign merchants arrived seeking to purchase a substantial quantity like 100,000 liang, equivalent to 125,000 kilograms, it left everyone perplexed. How on earth could they afford such an enormous amount? Their purchases of less than 5,000 kilograms immediately drew the ire of prominent local business figures entrenched in the negative karma industry. Furious at what they perceived as young Master Zhao's interference in the local market, they united to expel the newcomers. Zhao Yi displayed astute judgment. He offered some conciliatory words and left Suzhou with his modest 4,000 kilograms of silk. It was abundantly clear to him that lingering longer would not yield any further purchases. Local businessmen had made it explicitly clear that even if he stayed, he wouldn't be able to secure any additional silk. Silkworm households would not risk alienating the locals by selling to outsiders. Being able to safely transport 500 grams of silk back was already a minor victory in itself. In his mind, Zhao Yi was oversimplifying the entire ordeal. Their situation was dire, and there was no going back. In the Hu state, Zhao Zhai encountered a similar predicament. While he managed to acquire a larger quantity of silk than his counterpart, he too was eventually forced to leave after buying nearly 10,000 kilograms. Yet, Zhao Zhai's stubborn temperament meant he wouldn't accept being chased away so easily. If Miss Qin had encountered a similar situation, she would have shared the same perspective as him. That she was investing in her business, not coercing anyone into buying or selling, and certainly not engaging in theft. So, why was she unable to make any purchases? In the end, during Zhao Zhai's attempt to make a purchase, he encountered troublemakers who assaulted him, concealing their identity with a sack over his head. Despite the ordeal, Zhao Zhai continued to vent his frustration during the 500-meter trek back to the hostel. He refused to back down, exclaiming, "You don't want me to buy? I want to buy. I'm not stealing. I'm openly purchasing. Why can't I make a purchase?" Undeterred, Zhao Zhai instructed his men to persist with their attempts to acquire silk, and even suggested raising the price, believing no one would willingly part with their money. However, fate was not on their side. Not only did they fail to secure any silk, but they were also swindled out of over 50,000 liang. In the end, they hastily returned to Yangzhou. Zhao Mu was seething with frustration. While Zhao Yi didn't manage to obtain a significant amount of silk, he had expected as much. Buying such a substantial quantity of silk was no easy feat. The southern silk industry was highly developed, and silk remained in high demand across every city. Typically, there was only enough for local silk producers, making large-scale purchases a rarity. However, Zhao Zhai suffered a massive loss, losing more than 50,000 liang, despite acquiring over 5,000 kilograms of silk. This was a significant setback. Due to the scarcity of silk, the workshop would be forced to shut down within a matter of days. Consequently, they would either have to pay the workers without any production or resort to layoffs. The situation would only worsen if they couldn't meet their delivery deadlines. The Zhao family faced the impending loss of everything they had worked for. Under these dire circumstances, Zhao Mu had no choice but to visit Ms. Zheng's mulberry garden. Chapter 1282. Bowing. Zhao Mu's anxiety intensified as he observed the workers busily moving goods in and out. He had no desire to engage in conversation with Uncle Qing, so he expressed his intention to meet Zhao Shu instead. Witnessing Zhao Mu clenching his teeth, Uncle Qing couldn't help but sneer inwardly, harboring a deep sense of disdain. Old Master Zhao had neglected his paternal responsibilities during his time as a father, so when he now sought assistance, he seemed unsure of how to proceed. Why did his young master wish to meet him? Who did he believe himself to be? Uncle Qing's arrogant attitude infuriated Zhao Mu, leaving him feeling utterly helpless. Despite the overwhelming frustration, he reluctantly compelled himself to engage with Uncle Qing. Uncle Qing maintained a composed demeanor, sporting a smile as he reiterated that the Zhao family would have to pay the full price for silk, an amount 30% higher than the market rate. He displayed indifference to whether Zhao Mu accepted the offer or not. After all, the silk produced in their own mulberry garden consistently sold out. If they failed to sell it in Yangzhou City, there would always be eager buyers in Xuan. Zhao Mu's anger boiled over, prompting him to depart with a stern countenance. Meanwhile, Zhao Shu watched the situation unfold with great satisfaction. Zhao Mu had given his best effort, but ultimately failed. There was no way around it. They needed to address the issue with Ms. Zheng's mulberry garden to resolve their problems once and for all. Upon tallying the precious items in his private savings, Zhao Mu found that fewer than 30 pieces remained. These were all exceptional goods, the result of 3 generations of the Zhao family's tireless efforts to acquire them, and they were valued at over 2 million liang. Zhao Mu was genuinely reluctant to go through with it. He was confident because he had initially intended to pass on this knowledge, and once it was sold, it would be exceedingly challenging to buy it back. The thought of parting with these treasures was not something he wanted to entertain. In the end, they decided to empty the warehouse and allocate 6,000 liang of gold to deliver these treasures to Ms. Zheng's abbey in exchange for the needed silk. At this juncture, Zhao Mu had calculated that the Zhao family's wealth had diminished by nearly 2/3 in just 3 months. It was evident that the Zhao family's aspirations of becoming the wealthiest in Yangzhou were now a distant dream. Zhao Mu's shock was palpable, and his expression darkened. An ominous silence enveloped the mansion, with no one daring to utter a word for fear of incurring Old Master's wrath. As the boxes were carried away, Miss Qing couldn't help but feel a painful ache in her heart. It was her money, her son's money. She seethed with anger at Zhao Shu's greed in seizing her son's properties. With the workshop matter resolved, Zhao Mu turned his attention to his impending second marriage. Despite his recent trials, he still had some savings left. Upon hearing the news of his forthcoming nuptials, many families expressed interest in him. Miss Qing, overwhelmed by her concerns about money and property, had neglected this aspect. However, she realized that she couldn't intervene anymore. Her two sons were grown adults with their own families. If the new daughter-in-law wasn't capable, she might not gain a foothold in the family. Therefore, Zhao Mu decided to marry a capable woman. His new wife was 18 years old and managed to tie the knot before the 15th of August. She adeptly established her authority with her two sisters-in-law. Recognizing Miss Qing's long-standing service and the fact that she had two grown-up sons, giving them due respect. However, as the mother-in-law, she insisted on setting rules for her daughter-in-law. Miss Qing felt as though she had been slapped in the face, seething with annoyance at this turn of events. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1283. In the foot, Zhao Zhai and Zhao Yi were growing increasingly frustrated with the situation. Miss Qing's pitiful crying had become a common occurrence. However, the one responsible for these complaints was no longer Ms. Zheng. It was the new madam, who proved to be even more adept at it. What made matters worse was that she was younger than Ms. Zheng, making her appear even more endearing when she wept. Zhao Mu was well aware of Ms. Qing's intentions. As a result, his treatment of her had changed, and he was now favoring his new daughter-in-law. He believed that Ms. Qing, along with her two sons, were scheming to disgrace the new madam and undermine her position. With Zhao Mu's support, the new madam grew even more self-assured. She seized the opportunity to assert her dominance over Ms. Qing by claiming half of the nonchalant, casual, and indifferent furnishings from the storeroom. Apart from her monthly allowance, Ms. Qing was left with nothing. Ms. Qing's loyal aides were systematically removed from their positions. Ms. Qing found this situation intolerable. She had a few tricks up her sleeve, having served the Zhao family for many years. This ignited a fierce battle between her and Madame Zhao. As the conflict escalated to involve their respective sons and daughter-in-law, the Zhao mansion plunged further into chaos. Ms. Qing found herself at a loss for what to do. She resorted to devious and shameless tactics. When Madame Zhao's brother assumed the role of manager at the Zhao family, Ms. Qing feared that her own assets would be threatened by an outsider. Desperate to prove his incompetence, she even attempted to bribe someone to set fire to her brother's warehouse. Her plan backfired disastrously as the fire spiraled out of control, consuming several silk storage warehouses and half of the weaving workshop. Zhao Mu was on the brink of collapse. Word quickly spread throughout the town, heralding the imminent downfall of the Zhao family. The absence of silk threatened to inflict substantial financial losses upon them, jeopardizing their ability to fulfill their contractual obligations. Consequently, they found themselves compelled to offer compensation. With half of the workshop reduced to ruins, silk production ground to a halt. Fortunately, the incident occurred during the night when the workshop was empty, sparing any potential casualties. Miss Qing was equally stunned, her limbs turning ice-cold as she remained motionless in her room. How had it come to this? She had merely sought to start a fire, never imagining that it would result in such extensive destruction. Zhao Mu awoke and promptly reported the incident to the authorities. Initially suspecting Zhao Shuqing's uncles as the culprits, he vowed to hold Zhao Shu accountable. However, as investigations progressed, they apprehended the arsonist, leading them to Ms. Qing and her associates. Ms. Qing, inexperienced in such matters, succumbed to the pressure and revealed the truth when questioned by the authorities. Unable to deny her involvement, Ms. Qing resorted to tears and complaints. She lamented her extensive contributions to the Zhao family and painted the new madam as the instigator of her troubles. Ms. Qing insisted that the heartlessness of the new madam had driven her to take drastic measures, claiming she had only intended to start a small fire. She even speculated that the new madam might have orchestrated the incident to frame her. Zhao Mu, Zhao Zhai, and Zhao Yi were infuriated, struggling to contain their anger. Though they had long recognized Miss Qin's deceitful and malicious nature, they had not anticipated the extent to which she would go. As the truth emerged, the Zhao family prepared to offer full compensation. Zhao Shu, exasperated by the situation, decided to purchase the Zhao family's workshop, mansion, 6 stores and 5,000 acres of prime land. His substantial wealth rendered financial concerns obsolete. Zhao Mu, disheartened and lacking the means to mount a comeback, lost the will to persevere. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1284. Investigation. They could no longer remain in Yangzhou. It had become nothing more than a jest. After liquidating all their assets, the entire family relocated to Changshu. There, they purchased over 1,000 mu of fertile land, erected a moderately sized home, and assumed the mantle of rural landlords. While they could lead a comfortable existence, it still paled in comparison to the modest country folk. However, for Zhao Mu and the Zhao family, the transition from being the wealthiest residents of the renowned Jiangnan city to the most affluent figures in the countryside was a significant transformation, known only to them. The Zhao family maintained a discreet departure from Yangzhou. Yet news of their move reached Zhao Shu's ears. Zhao Shu awaited them approximately 20 miles outside the city limits. The Zhao family's countenances shifted as they were intercepted. Miss Qin seethed with anger and sorrow. She had been left with nothing, as all her son's wealth had been stripped away by Zhao Shu. Even her standing before the old master had been reduced. She now wore plain attire, devoid of the splendid ornaments that once adorned her tresses. 2 unadorned silver hairpins were the only remnants of her former finery. Her makeup had lost its former elegance, and her complexion appeared lackluster and ashen. She appeared to have aged a decade in an instant. Though her heart brimmed with sadness and fury, she dared not voice her grievances openly. The old master berated her, contending that if she hadn't borne 2 sons, she would have been expelled. This filled her with profound sadness. She had never anticipated that, after only a few years of opulence, she would be relegated to obscurity. Upon sighting Zhao Shu, she let out a sharp cry. "What brings you here?" Zhao Mu's eyes gleamed. "You," Zhao Shu grinned. "Old Master Zhao, do not misconstrue my intentions. I am not here to bid you farewell. I have a query, and I've come to witness the spectacle." Zhao Mu's expression hardened, his anger palpable. Zhao Zhai, Zhao Yi, and Miss Qin seethed with rage. Zhao Yi possessed sharp wit, but Zhao Zhai merely shot a withering glare at Zhao Shu, refraining from rebuke, an unexpected response that puzzled Zhao Shu. Internally he sneered, seeing this man as more moneyed coward than a fiery-tempered individual. With the Zhao family's defeat, they were powerless to counter. Contempt surged within Zhao Shu. The prospects of a Zhao family resurgence, with these 2 brothers at the helm, appeared bleak. Approaching Miss Qin's humble wagon, Zhao Shu lifted the curtain and coldly inquired of Dao Seeking, "Did my mother truly meet her end in an accident?" Miss Qin's countenance shifted. "How is that any concern of mine?" A sneer curled on Zhao Shu's lips. Certain matters resist scrutiny. The more one ponders, the more they appear suspicious. It's in your best interest to steer clear. I won't forgive any interference. I'll investigate this thoroughly, no matter the cost. Miss Qin quivered inwardly, her hands growing cold. Yet she steeled herself, standing tall and turning her head away. With a final sneer, Zhao Shu departed without a backward glance at the Zhao family. Zhao Mu cast a fleeting glance at Miss Qin's wagon and remained silent. Zhao Zhai and Zhao Yi also overheard Zhao Shu's words. Zhao Zhai cursed under his breath, deeming Zhao Shu's suspicions excessive. How could his mother muster the audacity for such a deed? Meanwhile, Zhao Yi harbored deep concerns. Chapter 1285. Back to Shaoding village. He was cunning, but he possessed a clear sense of purpose. The Zhao family stood no chance against Zhao Shu. Zhao Yi didn't even dare contemplate seeking vengeance. Should his mother truly have committed such an act, Zhao Shu's forgiveness seemed an unlikely outcome. Could the Zhao family compel Zhao Shu to address the matter? Later, Zhao Yi privately inquired of Ms. Qin, but she staunchly refused to confess. Her denials only fueled Zhao Yi's growing apprehension. Zhao Yi had always been self-centered, consumed by the fear that Zhao Shu would retaliate. In his paranoia, he pilfered the few valuable items left by Zhao Mu, absconded with over 2,000 liang from the household, and vanished with his wife and children. Zhao Mu's fury resulted in illness, further enfeebling him. Ms. Qin fretted over Zhao Shu's ominous countenance and chilling interrogations, haunted by the thought of his potential return. Nightmares plagued her, and tranquility remained elusive. Then one fateful day, Zhao Shu appeared at their doorstep. Qiao Xian had no ties to Yangzhou and arrived in Hangzhou by late March. In Hangzhou, Ms. Zheng's loyal servants assisted Zhao Shu in managing his business, with Aunt Qing in attendance. Aunt Qing and Qiao Xian shared a familiar rapport, and Zhao Shu had sent her a letter requesting her gracious treatment. Aunt Qing, diligent as ever, ensured everything was well prepared. Qiao Xian explored the floral fields and Zhao Shu's tea plantation, both thriving with vitality. Perfume and tea processing workshops were under construction, along with housing for the workers. Once Qiao Xian delivered the tools, everything would fall into place. Amidst the expansive floral field, an array of flowers sprawled out: roses, jasmine, sweet osmanthus, lilies, and cloves. Each section was meticulously arranged, with extensive plantings of vanilla for various supplementary purposes. Zhao Shu had sourced these seedlings from a reliable place. They exhibited strength and well-balanced growth, all of exceptional quality. Their tender, green leaves held a captivating allure. In a few months' time, lilies, Chinese roses, jasmines, and roses would burst into full bloom. Sweet osmanthus trees abounded in Hangzhou, guaranteeing a ready supply of this fragrant blossom. Perfume production could commence in the latter half of the year. Initial output might be modest, but it offered the workers an excellent opportunity to hone their skills. Qiao Xian, after a thorough inspection, used her unique abilities to aid in the plant's growth, departing with a sense of satisfaction. Aunt Qing held a private admiration for Madame Xiao's unassuming diligence. Rather than merely putting on a show, she had ventured 500 meters to inspect the progress. Madame Xiao's humility was evident. She did not need to engage in such hands-on efforts. Her grounded nature was truly commendable. Young Master had demonstrated exceptional judgment in pairing Officer Xiao and Madame Xiao for this endeavor. Their collaboration far surpassed that of the neighboring aristocrats. After spending 3 days in Hangzhou, Qiao Xian returned home with Sun Qian and Sun Bai, arriving back in Shaoding village on the 9th day of April. The first section of the Xiao family's household welcomed their return with great joy. Everything was progressing smoothly at home, and the entire village seemed to be thriving. Schools were already in session, with the sound of books filling the air, adding vibrancy to the community. The Xiao family's first section's business was expanding rapidly. Although they had acquired a few servants, they mainly hired villagers to work. The tea and floral fields required year-round attention, ensuring a continuous demand for labor. Chapter 1286. Displeased. Qiao Xian earning 25 to 35 won per day was considered a substantial income for the villagers. Even if 2 family members didn't work every day, they could still accumulate a significant amount of money by the end of the month. This increased income brought about changes in their lives, affecting their food, clothing, accommodation, and transportation. Some savvy individuals managed to save up capital and borrowed additional funds to start small businesses in town, while others purchased land to develop. As a result, every household enjoyed a much higher quality of life than before. They expressed their deep gratitude to the first section of the Xiao family for their transformative influence. Some even speculated that the Xiao family had amassed such wealth that they couldn't possibly spend it all, even refusing salary increases. Ms. Fong paid no heed to these rumors, especially when she learned of someone trying to emulate her success. She believed that if others wished to follow suit, they should do it competently or hire skilled individuals from the village. That would surely make the villagers envious. Ms. Fong didn't bother discussing these minor matters with Qiao Xian. Given his rare presence at home, she cherished their time together. Although she missed her son, Xiao Yunduan, Ms. Feng decided not to visit the bustling capital at this time. Instead, she planned to wait until the following year. Young Xiaoni was just 2 months into her pregnancy, and as a mother-in-law, she didn't want to leave home during this critical time. Her presence was necessary to oversee and manage the household affairs, which could be quite challenging. Upon hearing the news of young Xiaoni's pregnancy, Qiao Xian congratulated her with a smile, and even gifted her a generous red envelope. Young Xiaoni happily requested a piece of Xiao Yunduan's calligraphy and painting to hang in her room, intending to read it daily to impart some of fifth uncle's artistic talents to her child. Xiao Xian found herself caught between amusement and melancholy when she located Xiao Yunduan's fan for young Xiaoni, who was overjoyed by the gesture. Ms. Su couldn't help but regret not thinking of this when she was pregnant herself. She marveled at her third sister-in-law's knack for stirring up excitement. As a result, she requested some fans from Qiao Xian to adorn her son's room, with a particular focus on Zhenyan, who was attending school and could surely benefit from imbibing some of fifth uncle's talent. Qiao Xian shared the same sentiment, realizing the value of these items. However, Xiao Yunduan wasn't keen on parting with his other works so easily. After an extensive search, he eventually handed over a fan and a copy of the Analects. Ms. Su expressed her gratitude and carried these items away with great care, treating them as precious treasures. Qiao Xian couldn't help but wonder if she should request her husband to create more fans when they returned to the capital, considering their potential usefulness one day. What Qiao Xian didn't anticipate was Xiao Lulang approaching her, asking for Xiao Yunduan's revision materials and articles before the examination. Qiao Xian didn't mind helping out, but Xiao Lulang's tone and demeanor left her feeling uncomfortable, as if he were attempting to swallow his pride. It irked Qiao Xian. Eldest uncle appeared quite hopeful. Ms. Qiao, please find something for Lulang to assist him. It would be an honor for the Xiao family if Lulang succeeds, and the two brothers could support each other. This only intensified Qiao Xian's discomfort. She couldn't even muster a feigned smile in response. Chapter 1287. All helping each other? Her father-in-law was still so naive. Ms. Feng remarked, Yunduan's belongings might have been taken to the capital. We can search for what we're missing, but let's not discuss it too openly. Qiao Xian smiled. Mom, you're absolutely right. Sixth cousin, you can head home now. I need to conduct a thorough search, and finding those items won't be a quick task. My husband has his own confidential matters, and even I can't interfere with them. I mustn't mishandle anything. Xiao Lulang, who had been suppressing his anger, could hardly contain himself after hearing Qiao Xian's words. With a displeased expression he quipped, Thank you, fifth cousin-in-law. Then he departed. In private, Ms. Feng voiced her concerns to Qiao Xian. Lulang's behavior is becoming increasingly strange. Sometimes, I catch him eyeing our family as if we were adversaries. It's quite unsettling. I'm irritated by it. He's not as capable as Yunduan, and he failed to advance to the next level. Is that Yunduan's fault? Could it be that Yunduan's success threatens him or makes him feel inferior? Does he see Yunduan as a rival? He's so unreasonable, showing no interest in study at all. I wonder how much he's read? He's nothing more than a mediocre officer. Qiao Xian couldn't help but smile. Acknowledging her mother-in-law's insight, Xiao Lulang was indeed not a commendable officer. Ms. Feng continued, Don't hand over Yunduan's possessions to him. He regards us as adversaries, so why should we assist him? Who does he think he is? We don't owe him anything. He came inquiring about Yunduan's belongings, and your naive father-in-law even tried to lead him into your room to retrieve them, but I stopped him. I explained that outsiders shouldn't casually access our son's and daughter-in-law's room. They should wait until they return. I put an end to it when I mentioned that you'd be back this spring. I thought that settled it, but here he is again. Qiao Xian's heart skipped a beat, and she inwardly shuddered. She added, Mom, you understand that he should never enter our room and take things. My husband holds an official position, and his writings, particularly his letters, shouldn't be handed over to outsiders, especially those with hidden agendas. It could lead to trouble. The source of this predicament lay in the power of words. As long as individuals had motives, Finding something among someone's belongings wasn't a formidable task. Otherwise, why was the study always a restricted zone? They couldn't afford to be careless, as they were promptly and cautiously escorted out of the study, with concerns that their presence might lead to the drafting of articles. Xiao Xian had reservations about Xiao Lulang. Ms. Feng was equally taken aback. She clutched her chest and remarked, "Indeed? That's quite fortunate. I don't trust him. Ms. Feng had a knack for this. She remained skeptical of anyone she didn't have faith in, regardless of what they claimed. Ms. Ma even lamented that the first branch of the family was wealthy and looked down upon them, dreading that her son might outshine Xiao Yunduan. Consequently, out of envy, Ms. Feng was reluctant to offer any assistance. Xiao Xian grinned. "I'll just gather all of my husband's belongings and take them away." Ms. Feng concurred. "That sounds like an excellent plan." Chapter 1288. Back to the capital, they systematically organized and stowed away all the belongings, a task that proved to be remarkably convenient. Xiao Yunduan refrained from inquiring about these affairs. His only concern was that she had safely stored them for easy retrieval when necessary. A full day was dedicated to the meticulous organization of Xiao Yunduan's possessions into sturdy boxes, with Qiao Xian, Li Xia, and Li Qiao overseeing the task. Xiao Lulang understood the need for respect in this matter. Xiao Yunduan's reputation had to be upheld. Qiao Xian selected a few pieces, no more than 3 or 4 for transcription. Tao Tao, Xiao Zhenyan, Sun Qian, and Sun Baiqi ventured into the field to reproduce them. Xiao Xian had no intention of providing Xiao Lulang with Xiao Yunduan's original work. This was all part of being well prepared. Regarding the quality of the transcriptions, Xiao Xian's primary concern was legibility. Aesthetics and neatness took a back seat. Xiao Lulang's countenance darkened upon receiving his portion. Xiao Xian maintained a gentle smile. "Many of my husband's belongings have been transported to the capital. I've conducted a thorough search, and this is all I could find. Should you require anything else, please, cousin, feel free to convey your needs to him directly when he returns." Internally, Xiao Lulang sneered. He had plans to sit for the autumn examination next July, and if successful as a recommended candidate, the spring examination the following year. Xiao Yunduan wouldn't be returning to the capital during these 2 years. Xiao Xian was merely preserving appearances. However, he couldn't fault Xiao Xian for her actions. After all, she hailed from a Taoist family, and couldn't possibly be knowledgeable about her husband's scholarly pursuits. It was ignorance on her part. Taking the items, Xiao Lulang put on a false smile. "I'm deeply grateful, cousin and sister-in-law. I'll certainly remember your kindness." Xiao Xian felt a tinge of irritation. She wondered if he held some resentment towards her. Nonetheless, she smiled, trying to maintain harmony. "You're too kind, cousin." A sinister smile crept across Xiao Lulang's face. Xiao Xian paid no heed to it. Neither she nor Xiao Yunduan feared the Tian family, the 4th prince, or Xiao Lulang. Xiao Xian lingered until the Dragon Boat Festival had come and gone. She completed all her tasks, leaving her with a sense of assurance. She didn't plan to return for the latter part of the year. Instead, she intended to revisit Jiangnan and return home next year. After departing from home, they spent an additional 3 days at the Yuezheng family in the province before making their way to the capital. By the time they arrived back in the capital, it was already late May. What Xiao Xian hadn't anticipated was Xiao Yunduan receiving news of their return, and taking a day off to meet her at a tea-house pavilion over 500 meters away from town. Xiao Xian felt both surprised and delighted. In the wagon, the two of them couldn't resist hugging and kissing each other. Their time apart had made their reunion feel incredibly sweet, and they couldn't get enough of each other's affection. As the kiss ended, Xiao Xian turned soft, her breath quickening in Xiao Yunduan's arms. Her red, swollen lips, glistening eyes, and rosy cheeks made her appear irresistibly charming. Her languid, captivating demeanor prompted Xiao Yunduan to kiss her once more. The wagon continued its steady journey along the broad, flat road. Nestled in Xiao Yunduan's embrace, Xiao Xian beamed. "Darling, what brings you here to meet me?" Xiao Yunduan's long fingers caressed her hair, and he chuckled. "I missed seeing you the last time you were here, so I took this opportunity to make amends. But most importantly, I missed you. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1289. Reunion. Xiao Xian flushed and felt so sweet inside her heart. She said shyly, "Me too. What is it?" The two of them exchanged a look and smiled. Xiao Xian chuckled as she buried her head in Xiao Yunduan's chest, complaining a little with her sweet voice. The two of them spent a lot of time together, and time passed very fast. They seemed to arrive at the house in the blink of an eye. Xiao Xian adjusted her clothes and hair, putting on a dignified look. Xiao Yunduan chuckled and took hold of her hands. "We are home, let's get inside." Xiao Xian smiled and got off the wagon with him. Back at home in the capital, Sun Qian and Sun Bai bade them farewell, and returned to the East Palace with their men. Xiao Xian said to Xiao Yunduan with a regretful smile, "Sun Bai and Sun Qian are trained by the East Palace. They are capable, reliable and dutiful. How rare." The Crown Prime was one of the most influential people in the imperial family, and there were many aspects that no one could compare to. Ordinary families would not be able to train people like Sun Bai and Sun Qian unless they were lucky. Xiao Yunduan put his arms around her and smiled. "It seems that they have saved you a lot of trouble. Crown Prince has many people who can be of use to you. And it doesn't matter if they are away from the Crown Prince. If there is a chance, I will ask Crown Prince to let them work for us in the future, okay?" They were working for the Crown Prince anyway. Xiao Xian's eyes sparkled. "Is that really okay? Will Crown Prince be displeased?" Xiao Yunduan said. "No." Xiao Xian was very happy. "That is great, but you don't have to force yourself. It was not worth it to offend the Crown Prince." Xiao Yunduan smiled warmly and said, "No need to worry." During his service to the Crown Prince, Xiao Yunduan had never made any mistakes. Now in the East Palace, he held a position that commanded respect from all. Perhaps it was due to Minister Old Yun's influence that the Crown Prince held him in such high regard. All he required were two loyal individuals to assist him, and the Crown Prince would not be concerned. However, Xiao Yunduan preferred not to dwell on this topic. They were back home now, and it was time to focus on their reunion. He changed the subject, gazing affectionately at Xiao Xian. His arms wrapped around her, and he leaned in to whisper softly, "My love." Xiao Xian's heart skipped a beat as she felt a tingling sensation spread throughout her body. She playfully nuzzled against him, her arms around his neck, and kissed him passionately. Xiao Yunduan eagerly reciprocated. His anticipation and desire grew with each passing moment. The room's temperature rose, enveloping them in an atmosphere of passion and intimacy. Unbeknownst to them, Wuxia, who had been about to enter the room with tea, paused outside the door. Her cheeks flushed, and she discreetly withdrew. Xiao Yunduan only had one day off, with government office duties awaiting him the next day. Xiao Xian luxuriated in her late morning slumber, feeling completely at ease and lazy in the comfort of their home. She had no intention of leaving her bed. The previous evening, they had only emerged from their bath, and enjoyed a late dinner when darkness had already fallen. Afterward, they had slept for hours, leaving them feeling delightfully languid and unwilling to stir from their intimate cocoon. But she couldn't help but feel a deep sense of contentment and fulfillment. Her cheeks flushed as she recalled the events of the previous night, her heart swelling with sweet memories. Xiao Xian finally rose from her slumber at lunchtime. After a refreshing bath and getting dressed, Wuxia and Qiao served lunch. Wuxia also presented a platter of vibrant red strawberries, elegantly arranged on a white rhododendron-style fruit tray, creating a visually stunning and tempting display. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1290. Too many strawberries. Xiao Xian was pleasantly surprised, her eyes lighting up at the sight of the strawberries. "Oh, strawberries! Are these from our 20-mu garden?" Wuxia smiled warmly in response. Old Master instructed Songsher to pick them. He mentioned they ripened a while ago. However, Just before you returned, he had Songsher share some with our neighbors. Old Master believed you would enjoy them, so he had Songsher gather a few. Xiaoxian grinned in delight. They're delicious and I love them. Are there any left? You should wash them and have some too. Strawberries don't keep well, and can go bad overnight. Thanks to her remarkable gardening skills, these strawberries thrived exceptionally. They were slightly larger than copper coins, almost as big as local eggs, and boasted a plump, bright red appearance. One bite released an enticing fragrance, sweetness, and juiciness. The subtle hint of sourness made them irresistibly delectable, and it was hard not to finish half a plate in one go. Strawberries not only tasted heavenly, but also looked exquisite, making them a favorite among girls. Li Xia and Li Qiao quickly fetched another plate, and the three of them happily indulged in the delicious treat. Shortly after lunch, Xiao Yunduan returned home unexpectedly early. Xiaoxian beamed at him. What brings you home so early today? I wouldn't have woken up sooner. Xiao Yunduan took her hand and led her into the room, teasingly replying, that would have been a missed opportunity. I should have returned even earlier. Xiaoxian laughed merrily. As he sat down, Xiao Yunduan embraced her, his eyes filled with affection. My superiors understood my situation, so they allowed me to come home half a day earlier. Xiaoxian nestled in his arms, a contented smile gracing her lips. It was evident that her husband was thriving in his role at the Ministry of Revenue. The rest of the afternoon passed quickly as Xiao Yunduan and Xiaoxian discussed family matters and enjoyed each other's company. After a few days of relaxation at home, Xiaoxian decided to visit their 20 mu of fields. Songsher proved to be highly dependable. He meticulously planted the 20 mu of fields according to the instructions Xiaoxian and Xiao Yunduan had given him before their departure. At this time of the year, the crops were thriving, painting a picturesque scene of lush greenery that delighted the eyes. Xiaoxian surveyed the fields and estimated that around 12 mu were dedicated to potatoes. When she had initially provided the potatoes from her own garden, she had brought out an abundant supply from her unique space, resulting in a sizable planting. Potatoes, unlike other crops, could be divided into multiple pieces for planting, hence the surplus. Additionally, there were over 4 mu of strawberries, their dark green leaves and vines contrasting beautifully with the bright red fruits. The strawberry plants were in full bloom, adorned with small white flowers, indicating a prolonged fruit-bearing season. A variety of vegetables had been carefully sown as well, including chili peppers, beans, eggplants, tomatoes, cucumbers, cabbages, ginger, scallions, garlic, coriander, radishes, and more. It was safe to say that there would be no shortage of vegetables this year. However, the abundance of strawberries took Xiaoxian by surprise. She hadn't anticipated such a bountiful harvest. Although strawberries were delicious, their household consisted of only 5 people, including the master and the servants, making it impossible to consume them all. Unfortunately, strawberries couldn't be stored. They had to be eaten on the same day they were picked, as they would spoil overnight. It was no wonder that Xiao Yunduan had instructed Songsher to share some with their neighbors. Yet there was an art to gift giving. They should distribute them sporadically, 1 or 2 times now and then, so that everyone could enjoy a taste without coming to expect it regularly. If they constantly gave strawberries as gifts, people might grow accustomed to it, and if the presents were ever absent, it could lead to disappointment and complaints. What was the point of leaving such trouble behind? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1291. Visit from Zhao Shua's. For Xiao Yunduan's colleagues at the East Palace, they couldn't easily reveal their intentions. If they were to disclose their plans, impartiality was imperative. They had to meticulously consider every facet and ensure no one was excluded. Otherwise, they risked earning the disdain of others, and someone might resort to clandestine mischief. Yet, when it came to sharing the food with friends and colleagues, one had to be discerning. Not every colleague warranted friendship. What if someone took advantage, claiming illness with stomachaches, vomiting, or even feigning poisoning? Such accusations would be hard to refute. They had no intention of reconciling with the Tian family and the fourth prince. Their actions at the Ministry of Revenue were merely a show. Unfortunately, there were no markets in the vicinity where they could sell their goods. Strawberries were a novelty in the capital, and there were no nearby vendors. Even if someone were willing to sell, there would be few takers. Qiao Xian was stumped for ideas. She shared her predicament with Wuxia and Qiao, saying, "Let's harvest them all and make strawberry jam at home. Pick the ripe ones." For the time being, she decided to keep as much as she could. She planned to find an excuse to return alone and store them all in her personal space. Wuxia and Qiao were astonished by the abundance of strawberries, wondering how they could possibly consume them all. Qiao Xian's suggestion brought a smile to their faces. They had brought along a large basket, which would come in handy for collecting the strawberries. Qiao Xian joined in the harvesting, but most of the strawberries found their way into her magical storage space. After half a day of work, the three of them had filled 2 large baskets and half of another one. They also gathered some fresh beans, chili peppers, eggplants, and cabbages before heading home. As Qiao Xian approached her own courtyard, she noticed a maid and a servant waiting in the shade. They disembarked from a wagon and greeted her warmly. It was Zhao Shu who sought an appointment. He wanted to discuss matters concerning the floral fields and mulberry garden the next day. Would that be convenient? Had Qiao Xian been a man, Zhao Shu could have spared himself the effort. They were business partners and shared a close bond, which would have allowed them to meet directly in the province. However, given that Qiao Xian was a married woman of similar age, caution was warranted. She could only receive visitors when Officer Xiao was at home. Officer Xiao had just taken a brief respite, so an immediate meeting wasn't possible. Qiao Xian pondered for a moment, and then offered a solution with a smile. "Kindly convey to your master that he is welcome to visit tomorrow evening." The maid nodded, her face lit up with gratitude, and then took her leave. Qiao Xian halted her for a moment, and instructed Wuxia to provide the maid with half a basket of strawberries. "These strawberries were grown in our field. They are exceptionally sweet and fresh, perfect for consumption after a thorough wash. Please take them to your master." The maid expressed her gratitude, saying, "I thank Madame Xiao on behalf of master." With a smile, Qiao Xian watched them depart. Upon returning home, after a hearty lunch, the three of them indulged in some plump and vibrant strawberries, washing the remaining ones to craft a batch of strawberry jam. The delectable aroma wafted through the air, enticing the senses. They managed to produce 2 jars of strawberry jam, one in a porcelain jar and the other in a glass container, utilizing the contents of half a basket of strawberries. Qiao Xian tasted a spoonful of it, finding it to be delightfully soft and sweet, perfect for pastry fillings. It seemed that they had nothing to worry about. Even if the strawberries couldn't be sold, they would undoubtedly prove useful. In the evening, when Xiao Yunduan returned, Qiao Xian informed him about Zhao Shu's scheduled visit the following day. Xiao Yunduan grinned, saying, "He'll return early tomorrow. Zhao Shu must have been keeping an eye on us and waiting patiently for a while. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1292. Prophet Qiao Xian's surprise was evident, and a smile graced her lips. Zhao Shu undoubtedly intended to discuss the events in the south with her. Being aware that he had just returned, he didn't want to rush into disturbing her husband. Instead, he instructed someone to convey his message. Whether it was part of his own strategy or a gentle nudge from Uncle Qing, Zhao Shu's willingness to engage in this conversation demonstrated his admirable character. Qiao Xian considered herself fortunate. Both the Yuezheng family and Zhao Shu were exceptional allies. The following afternoon, Qiao Xian commenced dinner preparations a half-hour earlier than her usual routine. They had arranged to dine with Xiao Yunduan, and were anticipating Zhao Shu's arrival. Given the modest size of their family and the somewhat distant nature of Zhao Shu's relationship with them, they hadn't extended an invitation for him to dine at their home. Zhao Shu, understanding the protocol, arrived as the sun began its descent, making sure not to disrupt their meal. In the capital, nighttime curfews were enforced, so Zhao Shu would have to depart within 2 hours. After exchanging pleasantries, they swiftly turned their attention to business matters. Zhao Shu had brought along the account books and shared them with Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan. The flower field was thriving, with roses and jasmines blossoming in succession. The lilies had grown to the height of chopsticks, but it would take nearly 2 more months for them to bloom fully. The most commonly cultivated roses were predominantly in bud form, with a few sporadically in bloom. However, it would be next year before there were enough flowers. The perfume workshop was also completed according to the original plan. It had been constructed within the abbey with double layers of concealment to prevent easy detection. Uncle Qing and Aunt Qing had already recruited suitable workers who were in the process of signing contracts. Half of the required assembly workshop tools had already arrived, with the remainder expected shortly. Zhao Shu decided to oversee the final assembly the day after tomorrow, after which they could begin operations. Periodic visits to the mulberry garden in Yangzhou were also on their agenda. Qiao Xian offered some words of encouragement, expressing her confidence in the craftsmanship of the workshop. She knew that creating high-quality goods was the best skill achievable in this era, given the space interface's capabilities. As long as the workers recruited by Uncle Qing and Aunt Qing weren't lacking in intelligence, they would quickly grasp the required skills. Zhao Shu had complete faith in Qiao Xian's assessment. Xiao Yunduan, being an officer in the capital, wouldn't let her have free rein, and that assurance was sufficient for Zhao Shu. Moreover, Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan had provided invaluable assistance in helping him break away from the Zhao family and return to the mulberry garden, allowing his mother to divorce him and establish the Zhao family anew. Qiao Xian had already documented all the necessary details for Zhao Shu, and all he needed to do was appoint reliable managers to oversee everything. Based on the current progress, they were on track to generate substantial profits in the second half of the year. A significant profit indeed, and she eagerly anticipated it. Speaking of the mulberry garden, Zhao Shu's happiness was palpable. There was nothing more satisfying than reclaiming something lost, especially when it came to Ms. Zheng's mulberry garden, which held immense sentimental value for Zhao Shu. He joyfully shared that luck was on their side, as the mulberry leaves were growing exceptionally well that year. The leaves were plump, tender, and abundant, making it an ideal diet for the silkworms. Consequently, the silkworms had thrived, producing copious amounts of silk. This was the perfect time for the silkworms to spin their cocoons and yield silk, making it a highly productive harvest year. Zhao Shu was already prepared to utilize this to re-establish the Zhao family. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1293. Tea House. What does it matter if the Zhao family is large? They can simply take a few more bites if they can't finish it all. Sooner or later, he would devour the Zhao family. Zhao Zhai and Zhao Yi were no match for him. Zhao Shu and Qiao Xian never anticipated that Ms. Qin would take such action. The Zhao family crumbled and vanished from Yangzhou before the year could come to a close. Qiao Xian clearly understood why the mulberry trees in Ms. Zheng's garden were thriving so well and added with a smile. This made her even more confident about securing hundreds of thousands with a 20% share of the profits. Zhao Shu also briefly mentioned the 2 fields that Qiao Xian had entrusted him to oversee. The fields were easy to manage and the overseer was dependable. Tenants would take good care of them, and the rent would be paid after the autumn harvest. The land in Jiangnan was fertile, and unless it suffered from drought or flood, the harvests were consistently good. It was a substantial amount of money. Seeing that it was getting late, Zhao Shu decided not to overstay his welcome and got up to leave. Officer Xiao would not be pleased if they lingered, especially considering that Madame Xiao had only returned a few days ago. Qiao Xian smiled and inquired, "What did you think of the strawberries we brought home yesterday?" Zhao Shu instinctively displayed a peculiar grin and nodded. "I've never tasted fruit like that before. They are incredibly sweet and delicious." "Thank you, Madame Xiao." Qiao Xian waved her hand and replied, "It's not a big deal. We've planted a few acres, and the strawberries can bloom and bear fruit for months. It's their peak season, and there are plenty of them. Tomorrow, I'll have 2 large baskets prepared for you so that Aunt Qing and the others can also savor them. Oh, and we can't let the strawberries sit for too long. They're at their best when picked fresh, and won't taste the same the next day. Xiao raised an eyebrow and chuckled. Young Master Zhao, would you like more? We have so much of them at home, and you can have someone pick more if you'd like. No, Zhao Shu replied with a smile. What I was getting at is that these strawberries are not only beautiful and delicious, but also incredibly convenient to eat. Many high-end tea houses serve fresh fruits, and I'm confident these strawberries would be a hit. If you find yourselves with excess, Madam Xiao, you could consider selling them to tea houses. These are fresh fruits rarely seen in the capital and could fetch a good price. He added, feeling a bit self-conscious. I just mentioned it casually. If I'm mistaken, Madam Xiao and Officer Xiao, please don't take it to heart. While the strawberries were indeed fresh and rare, they were still small fruits and might not yield significant profits for Xiao Yunduan and Qiao Xian. Zhao Shu, coming from a business background, had been influenced by Qiao Xian's words and thought of this idea subconsciously. He was about to hold back when he realized something was amiss, but then he decided to share his thoughts. Little did he know that Qiao Xian didn't mind making money. Upon hearing Zhao Shu's suggestion, she smiled at Xiao Yunduan and asked, Darling, what do you think? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1294. Not more land. Xiao Yunduan smiled warmly and nodded at his eager wife. We can't possibly consume that many strawberries ourselves. It's such a shame to let them go to waste in the fields. Zhao Shu, with a knowing grin, chimed in. I frequent Jingquan restaurant quite often. What if I speak to the manager tomorrow? Qiao Xian's eyes lit up with delight. That's a fantastic idea. Songsher can deliver a basket of strawberries to you tomorrow morning, and you can present them to the manager for his consideration. Zhao Shu readily agreed, and the very next morning, Songsher ventured into the vast 500-meter strawberry field to pick half a basket's worth of strawberries, which he promptly handed over to Zhao Shu. Accompanied by his companions, Zhao Shu made his way to Jingquan restaurant. This establishment was renowned as an upscale tea house located in the heart of the capital. Among its 3 counterparts in the city, Jingquan restaurant was Zhao Shu's preferred haunt, and his generosity had made him a cherished and distinguished guest there. Engaging the manager was a straightforward affair given Zhao Shu's reputation. After tasting a single strawberry, the manager's eyes gleamed with approval. He readily accepted Zhao Shu's proposal, stating that a single tea house could easily consume 500 to 600 kilograms of strawberries each day. Adding up the demand from all 3 tea houses, it amounted to almost 100 kilograms daily. They agreed on a price of 2 qian for every 500 grams, with a daily supply of 90 kilograms. This arrangement promised a daily profit of 36 liang, translating to over 1,000 liang each month. With Song's his remarkable abilities, the strawberry harvest would continue until November, ensuring a steady supply in the foreseeable future. The potential earnings were staggering, amounting to thousands of liang within a few months. Moreover, as the strawberries continued to grow and could be planted every few days, the yield was only set to increase with time. This was an incredibly significant opportunity. The small plot of strawberry fields held the promise of a luxurious life for both Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan within the capital. Though they knew the importance of keeping their newfound success a closely guarded secret, they couldn't afford to draw attention from Xiao Yunduan's colleagues, whose reactions would undoubtedly be complex and potentially troublesome. Qiao Xian couldn't help but feel a deep sense of pride in the effectiveness of her superpower. When Xiao Yunduan first learned of their newfound prosperity, he was taken aback. He had always heard about the struggles of life and the difficulty of making money. Yet, it seemed effortless for his wife to accumulate wealth. With a confident smile, Qiao Xian expressed her desire for more land, realizing that the current 20 mu wouldn't suffice for their ambitious plans involving potatoes and strawberries. She eagerly encouraged Xiao Yunduan to inquire about available land beyond the town, even if it meant going as far as 70 or 80 miles from the capital. Xiao Yunduan nodded in agreement, taking note of her request. "I'll start looking tomorrow. Finding a large piece of land won't be easy." Given his position as an officer in the Ministry of Revenue, Xiao Yunduan had access to valuable information. Within a few days he managed to locate a suitable plot of land located over 1,000 mu away from the capital, in Cloudwater Town, roughly 40 miles away. Such a substantial piece of land was a rare find, even with Xiao Yunduan's resources. The following day, Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan visited the site together. Situated at the base of a gentle mountain slope, the land offered a relatively flat terrain with small hills rising and falling only a meter or two in height. It comprised over 1,200 mu in total. According to the owner's calculations, the price was set at 124 liang per mu, totaling nearly 17,000 liang for the entire plot. Chapter 1295. Plan. Xiao Yunduan and Qiao Xian arrived with a substantial sum of money in their possession, enabling them to make an immediate purchase. The capital lay a mere 400 miles away, connected by a well-maintained, spacious road that could be traversed in under 2 hours by wagon. Despite their location being slightly off the official route, it remained within a 10-mile proximity. Their estimated arrival time was 2 hours and 15 minutes. The fields were meticulously maintained and ready for planting, sparing the province the effort of clearing land. Qiao Xian had already devised a plan for the upcoming year, intending to cultivate potatoes, watermelons, and cantaloupes. All 20 mu in the town were designated for strawberry cultivation. With over 10 mu dedicated to potatoes this year, they anticipated a bountiful harvest, with no concerns about seed availability for next year. They even considered expanding to hundreds of mu. Additionally, they planned to grow hundreds of mu of watermelons and cantaloupes, intending to sell them directly in the capital once ripe. Qiao Xian harbored no doubts about the marketability of their melons after planting. Although the landowner offered to introduce potential tenants, Qiao Xian declined the offer. She opted to recruit tenants herself, along with acquiring additional laborers. One of her plans involved setting aside a portion of land to construct houses for the tenants and servants. Detailed arrangements were made for the warehouse, tool room, materials yard, and other essential facilities. However, she decided not to oversee these tasks personally and delegated full responsibility to Songsher, who had been a loyal and diligent employee for an extended period. Songsher was ecstatic about the opportunity and expressed his gratitude to Qiao Xian. He assured her that he would perform excellently, determined to justify her trust in him. Qiao Xian found herself torn between laughter and tears as she urged him to rise from his excited kowtow. During the journey back home, Qiao Xian enthusiastically shared her plans for cultivating the 1,200 mu of land within the wagon's confines with Xiao Yunduan. He listened with a smile, fully supportive of her ideas. Xiao Yunduan was accustomed to his wife's fervor for farming, whether it involved vegetables, fields, or various crops. He never hesitated to encourage her in pursuing her agricultural interests. Songsher took his responsibilities with utmost seriousness. Not wanting to burden Qiao Xian, he sought advice from Zhao Shu's managers, displaying a fair and sensible approach. Impressed with his diligence, Qiao Xian granted him the autonomy he deserved. However, she also recognized that as Songsher assumed a managerial role in the future, he would need assistance at home, particularly with the demands of the fields. Qiao Xian discussed this matter with Xiao Yunduan, and together they enlisted the help of a 14 or 15-year-old page boy named Qingyan to assist with various tasks. What came as a surprise to Qiao Xian was the immense popularity of her strawberries at Jingquan restaurant. The manager of the restaurant personally approached her, expressing the desire to increase their daily strawberry supply to 150 kilograms, given the high demand. Jingquan restaurant even had a dedicated floor for female patrons, attracting a substantial female clientele. The strawberries proved to be a favorite among these women. When the ladies wished to purchase the strawberries for takeout, the restaurant couldn't refuse, as they also offered takeaway options for snacks, candied fruits, and tea leaves in their tea house. However, this surge in demand quickly exceeded the available supply of strawberries. Qiao remained the sole provider of these sought-after berries. Word about the rarity and deliciousness of Qiao strawberries began to spread among the guests, fueling their desire to sample them. They were willing to pay 2 liang for every 500 grams of strawberries, highlighting their eagerness to savor this delectable treat. Chapter 1296. Buying. Of course, we've already reduced the price, and selling strawberries is a new venture for us. However, we do need to consider raising the price for Madame Xiao, Qiao replied. Qiao had no objections to this decision. Offering 2 qian for 500 grams of strawberries was already a generous price, especially given the novelty of the product. She hadn't anticipated just how popular they would become. However, for individuals like Zhao Shu, who had mentioned the strawberries to the tea house, and Xiao Yunduan, a prominent figure in the East Palace, the price of 2 qian for 500 grams seemed quite low. Given the rising demand for strawberries, it was only logical for the manager to contemplate increasing the price. Qiao did some calculations. For mu of strawberries, producing 300 kilograms per day. Thanks to her extraordinary abilities, the yield had significantly improved, but 300 kilograms still exceeded the demand. In the end, they decided to supply 125 kilograms per day at a rate of 6 qian per 500 grams. Qiao was content with offering strawberries at 10 qian per 500 grams, and she was already satisfied with the 6 qian price. This venture brought in 150 liang per day, totaling 4,000 liang each month. It appeared they had discovered another profitable avenue. As word of the strawberries spread, Qiao couldn't fathom how the news had reached so many people. Various vendors and tea houses approached her, proposing higher prices for her strawberries. Qiao turned down these offers, stating that she intended to increase production next year. However, the rejections seemed to have the opposite effect. Different people started coming to her door the next day, and those who were initially declined returned on the following days. This frustrated Qiao to the point where she couldn't help but vent her frustration to Xiao Yunduan. After some thought, Xiao Yunduan proposed, "Tomorrow, I will visit the East Palace and offer some strawberries to the Crown Prince. I'll also inquire if they would like to cultivate them at the Imperial Plantation next year." Their intention was to dissuade unscrupulous individuals. The Xiao family had a strong connection with the East Palace, and it was essential to maintain a harmonious relationship without going overboard. And the strawberries should be prepared in case the Crown Prince expressed interest in trying them, so Xiao Yunduan could present them to him. In reality, Xiao Yunduan had a position within the East Palace, which deterred anyone from attempting any mischief. Otherwise, the rarity and high value of the strawberries might have tempted some to steal them, and Qiao wouldn't have been able to safeguard them. Qiao looked up at him with a smile. "Is that acceptable? Are you enjoying the food?" Xiao Yunduan chuckled as he gently ran his fingers through her hair. No more gifts, just one large and juicy strawberry, weighing between 2.5 to 3 kilograms, would be sufficient. If the Crown Prince likes it, he can reward me with it in the future. However, Xiao Yunduan understood that the Crown Prince wouldn't allow any more gifts, even if he liked them. Moreover, there was the possibility of censorship intervening, and the Crown Prince wouldn't want any evidence left behind. Qiao hadn't anticipated this turn of events. Since her husband had given his approval, she smiled and agreed. It seemed that she was too accommodating, and it was time to teach those people a lesson. The following day, Qiao carefully selected a small basket of high-quality, large and plump strawberries. Xiao Yunduan personally delivered them to the Crown Prince, who had returned to the East Palace early in the morning. The Crown Prince had never tasted strawberries before, but he had heard Xiao Yunduan describe them as such. He smiled and remarked, "So these are strawberries. They look exquisite. It's no wonder so many people are fond of them. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1297. East Palace. Xiao Yunduan bowed gracefully, his smile radiant. These strawberries, a blend of festivity and exquisite taste, are at their prime season. I thought you might appreciate a sample of their freshness. The Crown Prince chuckled warmly. Thank you, Officer Xiao. He savored 2 strawberries and nodded in approval. Absolutely delicious. Xiao Yinduan offered. If you enjoy them, I could provide more next time. The Crown Prince waved his hand with a genial smile. No need for that. I simply wish to relish the flavor. Xiao Yinduan nodded, and their conversation shifted to court matters before he took his leave. Later, the Crown Prince instructed a eunuch to set aside a plate of strawberries for Princess Consort. However, she found herself in the company of her 3 adoring grandchildren, all equally captivated by the berries. Unable to resist their innocent charm, she took only a small bite and shared the rest with them. The children, mindful not to overindulge, requested the maids to send the remaining strawberries to their home. During dinner at the Crown Prince's residence, Princess Consort mentioned the strawberries, mentioning that Xiao Yinduan had provided them, and that her grandchildren had grown fond of them. The Crown Prince, his brow furrowing slightly, offered a gentle reminder. A single bite, my dear. What significance does it hold? The East Palace regularly supplies us with fresh fruits. Isn't that sufficient? We must remember that countless individuals in the world struggle to obtain enough food and clothing, some even lacking the means for an extra piece of attire. We are born into the royal family, blessed with abundance in sustenance and attire. Let us not become entangled in the allure of excess. Though Princess Consort felt a pang of irritation, she conceded that the Crown Prince's words carried undeniable truth. Unbeknownst to her, countless watchful eyes observed the exchange. She had only asked for a single bite, with the best intentions, yet she was aware that the East Palace might exploit the situation, portraying them as insatiable and oblivious to the sufferings of their subjects. She couldn't help but think, one bite shouldn't cause such a stir. I stand corrected. Your Highness, please rest assured, I have gained clarity. I will refrain from any ill-considered actions, she assured. The Crown Prince let out a resigned sigh. It's crucial to comprehend that as the heir to the throne, my actions are bound by responsibility. Princess Consort nodded, offering a reassuring smile. Of course, I understand. Inwardly, she consoled herself, considering it a temporary inconvenience she could endure. After all, it had been many years already, hadn't it? She envisioned a brighter future where the Crown Prince ascended to the throne, and she became queen, able to have everything she desired. The thought provided solace, brightening her mood. She always found comfort in these thoughts. Xiao Yinduan's visit to the East Palace proved highly effective. Everyone now remembered he was the Crown Prince's favorite. However, this time, when he brought strawberries to the East Palace for the Crown Prince to sample, it was clear that impatience was building. It wouldn't take a genius to recognize the growing tension. Unbeknownst to Qiao Xian, the merchants visiting her home were not ordinary vendors. Someone was undoubtedly pulling the strings behind them. Otherwise, they wouldn't possess such detailed information and audacity. Fortunately, her husband's presence provided some protection, making their intrusion less straightforward. Even though the East Palace didn't accept strawberry deliveries, Qiao Xian instructed Xiao Yinduan to liaise with the East Palace manager. She proposed that the strawberry seedlings could be transplanted, trimming the leaves in winter while leaving the roots. Additional layers of straw could be added for insulation, ensuring a smooth passage through the winter. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1298. Working alternatively, she could provide additional seedlings next spring. When the housekeeper of the East Palace relayed this information to the Princess Consort, an inner sense of joy filled her. She held the belief that Xiao Yinduan, at such a young age, had displayed remarkable capabilities and made significant contributions. However, the Princess Consort refrained from giving an immediate affirmative response. Instead, she decided to discuss it with the Crown Prince first. This approach was discreet and would avoid any potential gossip, wouldn't it? The Crown Prince nodded in agreement. He cherished his grandchildren's family deeply, but he found himself in a delicate position where even seemingly minor decisions could have significant ramifications. he needed to exercise caution. The princess consort praised Xiao Yunduan's thoughtfulness, and the crown prince couldn't help but smile in agreement. Indeed, Xiao Yunduan was a commendable individual. After receiving the manager's response, Qiao Xian led Songshi, Qingyan, Liqiao, and Lixia to the fields, where they acquired more than 100 new seedlings, along with 100 mother plants. Qiao Xian used her exceptional abilities to nurture them, ensuring their survival unless they were neglected for an extended period. Upon receiving the strawberry seeds, the East Palace manager planted them in the palace's back garden. Curious, the princess consort took her daughter-in-law and grandchildren to see the progress. The mother plants bore many ripe red strawberries, as well as some pinkish, half-ripened ones, nestled amidst the lush green leaves, creating an adorable sight. The imperial great-grandchildren had tasted these strawberries before and eagerly remembered their sweet and fragrant flavor. Their delight was evident as they feasted their eyes on the fruit. The princess consort instructed her servants to carefully pick the ripe strawberries and wash them, allowing both in-laws and grandchildren to enjoy their time in the garden, savoring the fresh strawberries and creating cherished memories. The princess consort couldn't help but shower Xiao Yunduan with silent praise. His intellect and thoughtfulness were truly remarkable. It was no surprise that even someone as arrogant as Tian Shanshan admired him. What set him apart was his fearlessness in the face of power, combined with his unwavering devotion to his original wife, a rarity indeed. However, it was somewhat regrettable. How splendid it would have been if such a talent were still unattached. The princess consort entertained the idea of being his matchmaker willingly. With some respite, Qiao Xian could finally focus on household matters. Despite selling a substantial quantity of strawberries, they still had plenty for their own consumption. The garden's watermelons had ripened as well. They selected a few, brought them home, and sliced them open, revealing their delightful sweetness. As the weather grew hotter, Qiao Xian preferred to stay indoors and avoid the scorching heat. Preparing delicious food at home brought her a sense of relaxation and contentment. One day, an aunt from the neighborhood, accompanied by her grandson, knocked on the door. She inquired if there were any more strawberries available, mentioning that Officer Xiao had given them some previously, and her children loved them. She hoped to treat the kids to more if possible. Qiao Xian, with regret, asked Lixia to offer some candied fruits to the neighbor's child, explaining that the strawberries had all been sold. She added, "We've even booked one tea house, and we're barely managing to keep enough for that." It was evident that these strawberries were considered a delicacy that many people had heard of. Qiao Xian couldn't help but suspect that this neighbor was well aware of the strawberries' value, especially since she had offered them to the tea house as well. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1299 Peaceful. It didn't matter whether or not she was aware. She had made up her mind to tell the truth. Otherwise, there was a chance that people would come knocking on her door, urging her children to sample the fruits to avoid causing offense. How many times could she continue to afford this? Refusing might leave people dissatisfied. Why did she find herself in such a situation? Moreover, Qiao Xian had no intention of breaking the habit of feigning ignorance about the strawberries' value. Aunt Qiao had not anticipated Qiao Xian's lack of deference. She felt somewhat embarrassed and put off. However, when Qiao Xian offered candied fruits to the child, who was joyfully munching away, Aunt Qiao couldn't press the issue further. She forced a smile and commented on how fortunate they must be to have made a fortune selling strawberries. It was truly enviable. Qiao Xian had no interest in idle gossip, and simply smiled without responding. Nevertheless, Aunt Qiao was known to be quite the chatterbox in the neighborhood. Undeterred, Aunt Qiao approached Qiao Xian with a smile. "Madam Xiao, how much money did you make selling those strawberries?" Qiao Xian remained silent, seemingly taken aback. It appeared that her close relationship with Xiao Yunduan had made her a subject of greater interest to their neighbors. A minor official like herself wouldn't typically face such inquiries. They had always kept a low profile, and the neighbors only knew that Xiao Yunduan had been promoted and enjoyed favor with the East Palace. However, Xiao Yunduan and Xiao Xian had maintained their usual demeanor, leading everyone to overlook them. She had once thought that it was just a rumor, that the East Palace held her in high regard. But it seemed that was all it was, a rumor. The residents of the imperial city differed from those in smaller towns. They didn't fear officials, having encountered princes, kings, young scions of nobility, and monarchs' heirs on the streets. Their composure was evident. Otherwise, the aunt wouldn't have persistently inquired about strawberries and Xiao Xian's earnings. I don't make much, just enough for a modest living. I only need to make 2 sets of clothes a year. Really? That seems too modest. That's the truth. Observing Xiao Xian's unwavering smile, the aunt realized she wouldn't glean any more information. She pursed her lips, muttered a few words, and departed with the child in tow. Later that afternoon, they encountered another aunt who mentioned that her son was searching for a better job. The whole family contemplated asking Xiao Xian for a few kilograms of strawberries to present to the messenger, hoping to make a favorable impression. Fortunately, Xiao Xian didn't offer any. Xiao Xian was left bewildered. In reality, if the aunt had been straightforward and expressed a willingness to pay, Xiao Xian might have sold her strawberries at a reasonable rate of 6 qian per 500 grams, perhaps even offering a discount. But she had no intention of providing freebies. Yet these situations continued to arise. After dinner, Xiao Xian recounted the day's events to Xiao Yunduan. He didn't know whether to laugh or sigh at his wife's predicament. She dealt with trivial matters daily at home, after all. After a bit of conversation, Xiao Yunduan contemplated and suggested, "Honey, what if we buy another house and move out?" Xiao Yunduan was the only government official in their vicinity, while the others were ordinary people entangled in various mundane matters. Such nuisances were inevitable. In another district where officials congregated, people were more mindful of preserving their privacy and exhibited better decorum. Chapter 1300, Princess Consort. Xiao Xian felt a slight sense of motivation, but the thought of dealing with Madame Lin and Madame Su made her abandon the idea. She smiled and shook her head, saying, "This place is the best option. I can manage it here. I believe it's unwise to relocate. Dealing with those officials can be even more troublesome. Their words are often veiled, and one must navigate their intentions through intricate twists and turns. A misstep could easily offend someone. It's truly vexing." Xiao Yunduan found her amusing and pulled her close for a kiss. "All right, as you wish. If you ever encounter any difficulties, remember to inform me. You needn't resort to being a bad person. I'll handle it." Being an officer, Xiao Yunduan had the authority that demanded respect. The residents of the imperial city were both knowledgeable and tactful, and they understood the nuances of diplomacy. Xiao Xian responded with a smile. Xiao Yunduan's gaze grew intense as he held her tightly. "It's getting late. Let's take a break." Xiao Xian met his gaze, and her heart raced. She blushed and averted her eyes, whispering, "All right." Xiao Yunduan lifted her in his arms and headed back to the bedroom. In early summer, roses were in full bloom, and durian flowers blazed with crimson. Peonies were also at their peak. During this splendid season, women in the capital often hosted various grand events to appreciate the flowers. Some had extended invitations to Xiao Xian, including the wives and daughters-in-law of Xiao Yunduan's colleagues, or those connected to officials from the Crown Prince's faction. Social engagements were inevitable. While Xiao Xian preferred to prepare delicious meals at home and spend her husband's breaks exploring mountains, visiting lakes, and enjoying the landscapes of Yinshui town, she couldn't decline these invitations. Due to Xiao Yunduan's youthful promise and his high standing in the East Palace, the women always held back their true feelings around Xiao Xian. Some may have displayed their disdain through their attitudes, but none dared to voice it aloud. Xiao Xian, however, was never one to subscribe to such notions. She remained unruffled. The fact that Xiao Yunduan had turned down Tian Shanshan and chosen her was enough to arouse jealousy and resentment among many women for his sake. How could a concubine's daughter, like her, be so fortunate? Some even envied the financial success Xiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan had achieved at such a young age since their arrival in the capital. They had purchased a house and over 1,000 mu of land. It was rumored that a small plate of strawberries at Jingquan restaurant cost nearly 1 tael of silver, and carrying more than 500 grams cost over 2 liang. Xiao Xian could supply more than 50 kilograms a day. How much could they potentially earn in a month? Some couldn't help but utter sour remarks in her presence, all of which Xiao Xian skillfully deflected with a smile. She preferred not to retaliate, as she didn't want to come across as confrontational. However, one day, someone visited the East Palace, and Princess Consort personally sent a message, informing her of their plan to visit the fourth prince's residence for a flower viewing event the next day. It was an invitation extended by the fourth Princess Consort. Xiao Xian couldn't decline Princess Consort's request, but inwardly, she felt a tinge of annoyance. What was the fourth Princess Consort's intent? If she genuinely wanted Xiao Xian as a guest, she could have simply sent an invitation. Yet, instead of mailing an invitation, she had Princess Consort deliver the message personally. Chapter 1301, Unconcerned. But Princess Consort had indeed given them those instructions. Xiao Xian had initially planned to inform Xiao Yunduan about this matter. She believed that if Xiao Yunduan knew about it, he would be equally perturbed. Perhaps it was the fourth Princess Consort's strategy, and it might not be worth the effort. Consequently, she decided to maintain her silence and observe the fourth Princess Consort's intentions closely. She was determined to discern the fourth Princess Consort's motives. Xiao Xian refrained from disclosing the actual situation, and instead informed Xiao Yunduan that the fourth Princess Consort had extended an invitation for her to visit the mansion for a flower-related event. Anticipating that the fourth Princess Consort would inevitably invite the Princess Consort to the banquet, Xiao Yunduan instructed Xiao Xian to seek the Princess Consort's support. Given her role as the hostess, the fourth Princess Consort would not risk any harm befalling Xiao Xian while at her mansion. Xiao Xian responded with a smile. Meanwhile, at the East Palace, Auntie Fu couldn't help but express her disapproval to the Princess Consort, saying, "You shouldn't have agreed to the fourth Princess Consort's proposal today. It's quite humiliating." She invited Madame Xiao, and the next invitation should rightfully go to her. "How can it be like this?" The Princess Consort smiled indifferently and replied, "Who would have anticipated that we would encounter her at court today? Initially, I believed she had no intention of inviting Madame Xiao, but she brought it up, and considering she's my sister-in-law, I couldn't refuse such a trivial request. That would be too stingy." Auntie Fu fell silent for a moment before suggesting, "But Madame Xiao is the spouse of an esteemed officer, and Officer Xiao is highly regarded by the Crown Prince. The fourth Princess Consort clearly doesn't hold Madame Xiao in high regard. We could issue one more invitation." Auntie Fu was about to suggest that arranging an additional invitation would be a simple matter for her. However, the Princess Consort hesitated. "Aunt, that might not be appropriate. Madame Xiao and Officer Xiao could misinterpret our intentions. Besides, Miss Qiao is Ms. Qiao, isn't she? In all fairness, I feel sorry for Officer Xiao. Sister-in-law, even without mentioning her explicitly in the invitation, you've already expressed a high regard for her. I'm sure she'll be quite pleased. Do you think she'd pity herself instead?" Princess Consort cast a disdainful glance. She believed Madame Xiao was ill-suited for the occasion. Auntie Fu was left momentarily speechless, but then smiled. Madame Xiao may not be accustomed to such affairs. Princess Consort, it's essential for you to look after her when we visit the fourth Princess Consort's mansion tomorrow. Remember, if she were to embarrass herself, it would reflect poorly on you as well, and that wouldn't bode well for Officer Xiao. Princess Consort nodded with a hint of distaste. "You're right. She's accompanying me, so her actions do reflect on me. Tomorrow, you'll be responsible for ensuring she doesn't make a spectacle of herself." As for herself, she had too many other matters to attend to. That's what Auntie Fu was there for, and Princess Consort acknowledged it with a nod and a faint smile. Princess Consort gave Auntie Fu a meaningful look and added, "If she behaves inappropriately, don't hesitate to reprimand her. If she doesn't heed your advice, just inform her that it's my directive." Auntie Fu replied, Yes, Princess Consort. The following morning, Xiao Yinduan chauffeured Qiao Xian and Li Xia, while Qing Yan handled the wagon. As Qiao Xian boarded the wagon with assistance, Xiao Yinduan couldn't resist squeezing her hand. She responded with a warm smile, and Xiao Yinduan reciprocated with a smile of his own. Once she was settled in the wagon, he headed to the Ministry of Revenue's governmental office. Qiao Xian arrived at the East Palace ahead of time, and the Princess Consort joined her later. Chapter 1302. Friendly Auntie Fu. The Princess Consort held the utmost importance among the guests, earning her the privilege of arriving last. As she meticulously prepared herself, Qiao Xian, unaware of her status, arrived at the East Palace. Caught in the midst of dressing up, she lacked the time to fully entertain Qiao Xian. Their initial exchange consisted of a few polite pleasantries, after which she swiftly dispatched a maid to guide Qiao Xian to the tea hall. However, Auntie Fu intercepted their path, extending a warm and courteous greeting. Qiao Xian remained unfazed by the Princess Consort's demeanor. She was well aware of her elevated position, and understood why the Princess Consort might view her with a hint of condescension. After all, she lacked the backing of a prestigious family name. With indifference, she continued to abide by the rules, harboring no aspirations to partake in the Princess Consort's family wealth or favor. Thus, she refrained from ingratiating herself. Auntie Fu's friendly yet respectful manner induced a touch of guilt within Qiao Xian. Inwardly, she couldn't help but envy the competence of servants honed by noble households. Engaging in conversation, Qiao Xian and Auntie Fu discussed her attire. She couldn't help but express her uncertainty. "Auntie, please don't mock me. I've never attended such a grand banquet, and I'm quite unfamiliar with proper attire. My only wish is to present myself decently. I hope I haven't transgressed any protocols." Auntie Fu couldn't help but appraise Qiao Xian. She was adorned in embroidered garments with delicate borders, a white-collared intermediate attire, a tasteful plum blossom knot adorning the collar's peak, and a pleated skirt accentuated with white silver threads. Her ebony hair was elegantly coiled into a graceful horsebun, secured with a golden hairpin adorned with pearls. One side of the hairpin sparkled with emerald and red sapphire blossoms, while the other featured two exquisite begonia silk flowers. Interspersed among them were dainty hairpin flowers, adding an exquisite touch to her appearance. In full makeup, she exuded an aura of elegance and beauty. Auntie Fu held a favorable opinion of Madame Xiao, believing her to be highly astute and skilled in handling situations of this nature. With a warm smile, Auntie Fu nodded and said, "Madame Xiao, you're being too humble. Your makeup looks perfect. There's nothing to worry about. While you're at the fourth prince's mansion, feel free to reach out if you need anything. There's no need to hold back." Grateful for Auntie Fu's reassurance, Qiao Xian smiled back saying, "Thank you, Auntie, but please don't stand on ceremony with me. I hope I won't trouble you." Auntie Fu chuckled in response, "Of course not." After a considerable wait, when the Princess Consort was finally ready, she dispatched someone to fetch Qiao Xian, and together, they made their way to the fourth prince's mansion alongside her two daughters-in-law. As expected, upon their arrival, they found themselves among the last group of guests. The fourth Princess Consort, accompanied by the third prince's concubine and the second prince's concubine, emerged with a gathering of female attendees. As the host, the fourth Princess Consort warmly greeted everyone with a smile. The Princess Consort tugged at her and the third prince's concubine's sleeves, remarking, "We're all family here. There's no need for such formality. We shouldn't have arrived so late and made everyone uncomfortable." In response, they all smiled and expressed gratitude to the Princess Consort, praising her for her kindness and approachability. With a friendly demeanor, the fourth Princess Consort invited them inside. The banquet took place in the Furong Pavilion, situated on the eastern side of the fourth prince's mansion garden. The pavilion was surrounded by casually arranged peonies and variously shaped rockeries, creating a charming juxtaposition between the peonies and the natural landscape. Chapter 1303. Purpose. All varieties of peonies were clearly well tended, their robust stems supporting lush branches adorned with enormous, bowl-sized blossoms. Among the verdant leaves and boughs, a profusion of colors unfolded, including rich reds, golden stamens, snow white, rosy pinks, deep purples, soft greens, pale yellows, and delicate pinks. Most of these blooms were double-petaled, their layers of petals gracefully unfurling in the bright sunlight, a feast for the eyes. Furong Pavilion was a sprawling, square structure, already prepared with a set table. The fourth princess consort beamed as she invited the princess consort to take her seat. Once the princess consort settled in, the concubines and the princess consort of the prefecture lord followed suit, guided to their designated spots by the attentive maids. On the table, tea and snacks were promptly served. These women were well acquainted within their social circle, well aware of the fourth princess consort's dignified and amiable demeanor. Consequently, they felt no trepidation in her presence and quickly engaged in cheerful conversation. Secondary concubine Shi had previously invited Qiao Xian to a banquet at the fourth prince's residence. But the contrast between secondary concubine Shi and the fourth princess consort was stark. Secondary concubine Shi had once been the center of attention, yet now she found herself sitting behind the fourth princess consort, radiating contentment. As for He Jiqing, she could only stand dutifully behind the fourth princess consort, tending to her needs like a palace maid. Her attire resembled that of a top-tier palace made by the fourth princess consort's side, and she dared not draw any attention to herself. Qiao Xian shot a fleeting glance in her direction before shifting her gaze away. Times had changed. He Jiqing, hailing from the esteemed Xia family in Yuzhong province, had been the object of adoration among the province's noblewomen. She possessed talent and beauty, exuding elegance and distinction, leaving many noblewomen envious. However, within the confines of the fourth prince's residence, she assumed the role of a mere servant. She couldn't help but wonder if she would come to regret her journey this far. What was she truly seeking? Qiao Xian harbored no sympathy for her, and silently made a mental note of her observations. She hadn't forgotten her past actions. However, at this moment, she had no intention of taking any immediate action against her. After all, if her current plan were to fail, she wouldn't have a pleasant stay at the fourth prince's mansion, would she? The group rose from their seats, and the enchanting garden was in full bloom, inviting them all for a leisurely stroll. The young ladies couldn't bear to stay put any longer. They eagerly joined their closest friends, relishing their time together. The fourth princess consort remained in the company of the princess consort. Tian Shanshan, the fourth prince's cousin, was also in attendance. She cast a contemptuous glance in Qiao Xian's direction and offered a sly smile. But as long as Tian Shanshan was around, none of the ladies from other pavilions or the young madams dared to approach Qiao Xian or extend greetings. They didn't want to cause any inconvenience for Lady Tian. Furthermore, most of the guests aligned with the fourth princess consort were firmly on the fourth prince's side, leaving Qiao Xian with little support. Qiao Xian comprehended the situation well. She had no desire to forge new connections. They were about to embark on a carefree, nonchalant stroll with Lixia when a passing maid accidentally spilled half a pot of tea on Lixia. Lixia let out a startled scream. Qiao Xian was taken aback as well. She quickly reached out to Lixia. "Is it hot?" Lixia's complexion shifted between shades of red and white as she nervously shook her head. The tea wasn't scalding, but it was uncomfortably warm, making her flinch. Chapter 1304, Accident. The maid trembled with fear, sinking to her knees in supplication. "I'm so sorry, madam. Please find it in your heart to forgive us." Instantly, the room's occupants turned their attention to the sudden commotion. Qiao Xian remained silent, his expression unreadable. Lixia, taken aback by the maid's distress, instinctively moved to assist her. However, Qiao Xian halted her with a gesture. "Just rise, please." Qiao Xian addressed the maid, his voice firm but not unkind. Relieved that Lixia appeared unharmed, the maid's anxiety lessened slightly. "Please, Madam Qiao," she implored between sobs. "Stand up now." Qiao Xian urged her gently. "Do you require my personal assistance?" Startled, the maid lifted her gaze, meeting Qiao Xian's knowing look. Her trembling subsided, and she rose to her feet instinctively. Secondary concubine, Sure arrived with her entourage, apologizing to Qiao Xian. "I apologize, Madame Xiao," she said, her tone contrite. "I'm truly sorry for this incident." She then turned her attention to the maid and scolded her sternly. "You must be more cautious. How could you collide with us? It's disgraceful." Secondary concubine Sure cast a lingering glance at Wuxia, as though her disapproval extended to the maid, Wuxia, or even Qiao Xian's mistress. Wuxia sensed the unspoken tension in the room and felt her cheeks flush. Qiao Xian offered a warm smile. Secondary concubine Sure, let's not dwell on this. I don't believe the girl meant any harm. Please, let's forgive her. Secondary concubine Sure's facial expression twitched, and she responded to Qiao Xian with a forced smile. "If Madame Xiao wishes it, then so be it. Madame Xiao is known for her kindness and treating her subordinates as sisters. I'm a straightforward person, and it seems I've misunderstood the situation. You have a good heart, Madame Xiao, and you're teasing me." Secondary concubine Sure, you certainly have a great sense of humor. Qiao Xian's smile remained affable. "My treatment of sisters is quite different, and I was merely offering a few words of comfort to this frightened girl. It's a bit of a stretch to say I treat her like a sister, don't you think? But if that's how you treat sisters, that's quite remarkable, I must say." Secondary concubine Sure's irritation became palpable, and she responded to Qiao Xian with a strained half-smile. "Madame Xiao, I was simply expressing my observation. No, I wouldn't want any misunderstandings to linger," Qiao Xian explained with a hint of discomfort. "I prefer clarity in our interactions." Secondary concubine Sure chuckled, though her true feelings were thinly veiled. A crowd had gathered to witness the exchange, both surprised and annoyed by Qiao Xian's retorts. They questioned her audacity. What gives her the right? She's quite stingy. Her words are as sharp as a marketplace quarrel, and she seems to relish confrontation. Not very dignified. Etiquette? She clearly has none. Secondary concubine Sure found solace in the chorus of agreement, casting a triumphant look at Qiao Xian. Internally seething, Qiao Xian sneered. "Do you really think I lack etiquette?" Secondary concubine Sure inwardly agreed, but dared not vocalize it. Instead, she maintained a polite smile. Of course not. But her politeness did little to soothe Qiao Xian's annoyance. How dare she attempt to steal elder Miss Husband? Xiao Yunduan had assisted the crown prince to such an extent that his own son had suffered greatly. Did it surprise anyone that he mocked her? She felt it was justified. Chapter 1305. None of her business. That's excellent. Qiao Xian exclaimed with a radiant smile and a touch of pride in her voice. My husband always praises my virtues and impeccable manners. He truly believes in my goodness. Secondary concubine Sure. She was unable to dispute Xiao Yunduan's opinion. This revelation surprised many, causing their gazes to shift instinctively towards Tian Shanshan. Tian Shanshan maintained a composed exterior, but beneath the surface anger simmered. She couldn't fathom why everyone was fixated on her. Their comments had nothing to do with her. In the distance, the fourth princess consort and her entourage approached, overhearing the conversation. One of the prefecture lord's princess consorts chimed in with a sly smile. Madame Xiao is quite sharp-witted. After all, a concubine's daughter is just that, a concubine's daughter. Officer Xiao, you exude gentility and refinement, a perfect match. A few other ladies chuckled and exchanged hushed remarks. The fourth princess consort chose to remain silent. Princess consort felt a twinge of embarrassment, her refined nature clashing with Qiao Xian's assertiveness. She couldn't help but resent that Qiao Xian's competitiveness might tarnish Officer Xiao's reputation. Qiao Xian, a mere concubine's daughter, seemed to be making matters worse. Princess consort even regretted not declining the fourth sister-in-law's invitation the day before. She shouldn't have brought Qiao Xian along. Auntie Fu sighed inwardly, observing Princess Consort's lack of response. Princess Consort epitomized dignity and grace, always mindful of her image to avoid any criticism for impoliteness or lack of virtue. However, there were times when she went to great lengths to maintain this facade. Secondary concubine Shi's actions were clearly aimed at humiliating Madame Xiao, an injustice that shouldn't be allowed to persist. Madame Xiao had been brought to this gathering by Princess Consort, and it was incumbent upon her to defend Madame Xiao, especially when Officer Xiao possessed such exceptional talents. If Madame Xiao were to become deeply upset and complain to Officer Xiao, what impression would it leave on him? Auntie Fu, though aware of this delicate situation, dared not voice her concerns. She offered a reassuring smile and said, "Princess Consort, allow me to check on the situation." Princess Consort nodded and exchanged a meaningful glance with Auntie Fu, conveying her desire for Auntie Fu to discreetly remind Xiao Xian to maintain her composure. This unspoken communication left Auntie Fu sighing inwardly. With a warm greeting, Auntie Fu approached them and suggested, "Concubine Madame Xiao, perhaps it's time for Wuxia to change her attire." Secondary concubine Shi nodded with a smile, admitting, "You are right. I almost forgot about that." She then singled out one of the maids and instructed, "Wuxia, go change your clothes." Wuxia turned towards Xiao Xian, who simply nodded and encouraged, "Go ahead." Though Wuxia held significant importance in Xiao Xian's life, only Xiao Xian and perhaps Wuxia herself were aware of this. Others often regarded maids and servants as expendable pawns or scapegoats. Even if someone attempted to manipulate Wuxia, it would unlikely reflect negatively on Xiao Xian. Wuxia felt a hint of nervousness but trusted her mistress implicitly. If Xiao Xian asked this of her, it must be for a good reason. Approaching with a gracious smile, the fourth Princess Consort inquired, "Madame Xiao, is everything now in order? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1306 Xiang Rui. Xiao Xian graciously bowed her head and flashed a warm smile. "I appreciate your concern, fourth Princess Consort. I am perfectly well." The fourth Princess Consort, relieved to hear this, reprimanded secondary concubine Shi, and instructed one of the maids to step forward. She then turned back to Xiao Xian, her smile unyielding. "Since your personal maid is not present, it would be inconvenient for you. Xiang Rui, you may accompany Madame Xiao and attend to her needs. Madame Xiao, please accept her assistance. There is no need to decline. Allow Xiang Rui to serve you." With a respectful demeanor, Xiang Rui responded in a hushed tone, offering a polite bow to Xiao Xian before discreetly positioning herself behind her mistress. Feeling obliged by the circumstances, Xiao Xian returned Xiang Rui's courtesy with a gracious smile. The fourth Princess Consort beamed and extended an invitation to all present to enjoy the blooming flowers. While some of these peonies were of a rare and superior quality, they lacked the visual charm one might expect. Nonetheless, everyone smiled in appreciation. Xiao Xian couldn't help but spot a few of these exceptional peonies, and yearned to acquire one to transplant into her own unique space. Yet the garden was teeming with guests, making it impossible to act on her impulse. The thought of someone witnessing her actions and demanding an explanation deterred her from taking any such liberties. In reality, since arriving in the capital, she had already amassed a collection of extraordinary flowers in her private domain. Xiang Rui remained steadfast at Xiao Xian's side, providing company and engaging in a delightful conversation about the various flowers in the garden. Xiao Xian, unwilling to vent her frustrations on a mere maid, found herself genuinely captivated by the conversation, especially considering her profound interest in flora and her extraordinary abilities. They continued to exchange pleasantries with Xiang Rui, immersing themselves in the world of blossoms and botany. After a while, a housekeeper approached them, wearing a reassuring smile. She relayed the news that Wuxia had suffered only minor injuries, exhibiting redness and swelling on her front, with some skin peeling. Wuxia had already received medical attention, and was now being treated with ointment. A full recovery was expected within a few days, with no lasting scars to worry about. However, It would be preferable if she could remain in her quarters and avoid this place altogether. Xiao furrowed her brow and gave a solemn nod. She was determined not to allow Wuxia to be scarred. Even if the doctor had mentioned the possibility of scarring, Xiao was resolute in her decision to prevent it from happening. Fortunately, Wuxia's condition seemed to be improving, and she was not of great importance in the grand scheme of things. In the grand hierarchy, Wuxia was just a maid, and there was little more that could be done to address the incident. Xiang Rui continued to attend to Xiaoxian's needs. Following their meal, they gathered in the hall for tea and lively conversation, discussing the latest fashion trends, accessories, cosmetics, and rouge popular in the capital. As the time to depart approached, Princess Consort was the first to take her leave, and those engaged in conversation rose to bid her farewell. Xiao accompanied Princess Consort, and as the princess departed, she followed suit. Wuxia had also been brought along. The two exchanged a glance, and Wuxia offered a reassuring smile, assuring Xiao that everything was fine. Xiao acknowledged her with a subtle nod. The fourth Princess Consort wore a pleasant smile, and turned her attention to Xiao. Madam Xiao, what are your impressions of Xiang Rui? I hope you did not feel inconvenienced. Xiao replied graciously, Fourth Princess Consort, you jest. Miss Xiang Rui is remarkably well-mannered and attentive. It is evident she hails from the prince's mansion. She is truly exceptional. In your case, Madam Xiao, it seems destiny has played its hand, and I am inclined to bestow Xiang Rui upon you. Xiang Rui, please serve Madam Xiao diligently, and ensure you do not bring any disgrace upon me or the fourth prince's mansion. Understood? The unexpected announcement left everyone in astonishment, including Xiao herself. Xiang Rui nodded in acknowledgement, and offered a respectful kowtow to the fourth Princess Consort. She then stood and positioned herself behind Xiao, as if she were now exclusively in her service. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1307. Princess Consort's Anger. Princess Consort was growing increasingly irritated. She had never anticipated such behavior from the fourth Princess Consort. Xiao served the Crown Prince, while the fourth Princess Consort presented gifts to Xiao. It left her bewildered. What was happening here? Whether or not this individual was the spy dispatched by the fourth prince's household was beside the point. Xiang Rui possessed beauty and an appealing figure. She couldn't possibly be foolish to have been chosen by the fourth Princess Consort. The uncertainty of her intentions weighed on Princess Consort's mind. Neither Xiao nor Xiao could simply dismiss her. On the contrary, they had to treat her well because of her title bestowed upon her by the fourth Princess Consort. Princess Consort had nothing to fear. If an opportunity arose for her to gain favor with Xiao, she could consider taking Xiang Rui as a concubine. Why not? Who could guarantee that such a situation would never transpire? The more Princess Consort pondered these thoughts, the more her annoyance grew. Nevertheless, she had never contemplated turning down the fourth Princess Consort's favor in favor of Xiao. She was, after all, the Princess Consort, and she had to display respect for her sister-in-law, the fourth Princess Consort, in front of numerous witnesses. Otherwise, she'd be labeled as narrow-minded and petty. Such a reputation was something she couldn't afford. Princess Consort didn't arbitrarily send someone to the Xiao family. She had made a decision. She would assign someone to discreetly monitor Xiang Rui and ensure she didn't achieve her goals. Xiao should have chosen someone clever to serve the crown prince, enabling Xiao to take her as a concubine and assist in managing the household, so that he could wholeheartedly serve the crown prince. With her resolve made, Princess Consort's anger began to dissipate. She smiled and turned to Xiao, who was still in a daze. Ms. Qiao, the fourth Princess Consort, has shown her generosity. You should thank her. Xiao's eyes widened, clearly taken aback by the situation. She remained silent, assuming that Princess Consort would come to her defense. Aren't they supposed to be a team? Even if Princess Consort didn't hold her in high regard, Princess Consort couldn't possibly just stand by and allow the fourth princess consort to send the maid to the Xiao family, especially when the maid was so beautiful. Xiao Xian could easily discern the fourth princess consort's intentions. Attempting to keep her composure, Xiao Xian smiled and gracefully bent her knees. Thank you for your generosity, fourth princess consort, but my humble abode cannot accommodate so many people, so I must respectfully decline your offer. Gasps filled the room as people exchanged bewildered glances. Had Miss Qiao lost her mind? How could she publicly disrespect the fourth princess consort like this? Regardless of Xiao Yunduan's status in the East Palace, he was just a lowly fifth-ranked officer, not even ranking above the fourth prince. Miss Qiao wouldn't dare to do this unless she had a death wish. The fourth princess consort sneered, her tone biting. Madam Xiao, are you rejecting my offer? If you recognize my goodwill, why decline? Xiao Xian had intended to pressure her into accepting the proposal, but it seemed that she had become the one humiliated. Tian Shanshan sneered, deeming Xiao Xian too petty for such a public display. What noble wife from a prestigious family would act so ignorantly? Xiao Xian responded, her voice firm. I am not worthy of such kindness. Ridiculous. The fourth princess consort decided not to further embarrass Xiao Xian in public. That would be beneath her. Xiao Xian didn't merit such humiliation from her. She turned to princess consort, raised an eyebrow, and offered a half-smile. You share the same sentiment, princess consort? I merely intended to extend a kind gesture. Yet you seem to think I have ulterior motives. Am I mistaken? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1308. No Harvest. Auntie Fu was inwardly consumed by anxiety, dreading that the princess consort might align with the fourth princess consort to pressure Xiao Xian. The fourth princess consort, constrained by her position, refrained from taking overt actions but silently cursed Xiao Xian for her lack of discernment. However, Xiao Xian remained resolute in accepting the princess consort's proposal. The princess consort discerned the intentions of the fourth princess consort. Nevertheless, Xiao Xian was in her company, and Xiao Yunduan served the crown prince, obliging her to address the fourth princess consort's inquiry with tact, avoiding causing embarrassment. Despite her internal frustration, Princess Consort found herself trapped in this predicament. Every stride taken by her and the crown prince was fraught with hardship and constraint. They were denied the freedom enjoyed by others. Xiao Xian had perceived the princess consort's dilemma and was reluctant to place such a burdensome decision on her. When Princess Consort finally spoke, it sealed her fate, and both she and her husband yearned to evade the looming predicament. Fourth princess consort, there is no need to consult the princess consort. This matter falls under my purview, not yours. I humbly request your forgiveness, fourth princess consort. Princess consort breathed a sigh of relief, compelled to speak her piece. She forced a smile and added, fourth sister-in-law, Miss Qiao is absolutely correct. Miss Qiao is a timid soul, and does not merit any rewards. Fourth sister-in-law, rest assured. Bah. The fourth princess consort responded with a derisive scoff. Internally, the princess consort sighed deeply and continued with a strained smile. This young lady is called Xiang Rui, correct? She possesses a unique and clever disposition. Fourth sister-in-law, if you permit, I would like to take her under my wing. The princess consort didn't genuinely consider anyone from the fourth prince's mansion a significant threat. She merely offered an escape route to the fourth princess consort. In reality, she could easily take this man home and confine him in an available courtyard within the East Palace. The fourth princess consort's expression softened momentarily. However, when she pondered how diligently Xiang Rui had been trained, she hesitated to squander her talents in the East Palace. She forced a smile and dismissed the offer, saying, "Let's drop the matter. Your establishment is filled with clever individuals." This response only deepened Princess Consort's irritation. She had extended a lifeline, only to have it rejected. This man was truly exasperating. In that case, I shall take my leave. Farewell, Princess Consort. The fourth Princess Consort shot a glance at Xiao and sneered. Madam Xiao, there's no need for such politeness. We'll have ample opportunities in the future. Am confident in my ability to discern right from wrong, and won't cause any trouble for Madam Xiao. Xiao averted her gaze, as if she hadn't heard the comment. The fourth Princess Consort regarded her with disdain. Subsequently, Princess Consort, her daughter-in-law, and Xiao departed. Others followed suit until they had all departed, leaving an atmosphere of palpable humiliation that discouraged onlookers from remaining. Princess Consort harbored considerable displeasure toward Xiao. She instructed someone to inform Xiao that she was fatigued, and that she could head home directly. Xiao yearned to distance herself from the Princess Consort and her family. Upon returning home, she consoled Wuxia and inquired about the extent of her injuries. Seeing Wuxia's diminished anxiety, she found some solace. Initially, Wuxia felt tremendous guilt, blaming herself for her carelessness and the humiliation inflicted upon Madame Yuezheng. Xiao shook her head gently. Someone is orchestrating these events against us. We can't entirely evade them. Try not to dwell on it. Wuxia remained bewildered for a while, only regaining her composure after some time. Was this a deliberate trap? She hadn't sensed it at all. Her despondency deepened. If she couldn't evade these schemes, she risked causing problems for Madame Qiao. She resolved to be more cautious in the future. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1309 Grievance. Xiao arrived home earlier than usual, his brow furrowed with concern as he glanced at Xiao. Xiao greeted him with a warm smile. Darling, you're back early today. Xiao gently embraced her. Did you have a difficult day? Xiao pondered how to express her day's events, then looked up at him, her eyes blinking thoughtfully. I encountered some individuals who tried to intimidate me, but I stood my ground so I don't feel aggrieved. A trace of guilt crossed Xiao face. You shouldn't visit those places anymore. He wished they could spend time with familiar acquaintances, but he was wary of the palaces and residences of princes, kings, and monarchs. Xiao offered a reassuring smile. I thought you might want me to be present there. Working for the crown prince, she assumed he'd appreciate her visits to these prestigious mansions. Xiao clarified. Not unless there's a special occasion with a distinguished guest. All right, I won't go then, Xiao agreed. Xiao smiled warmly. If anything like this happens again, I'll stand up for you. That's reassuring. Xiao replied as they both took their seats. I feel like I've helped you eliminate some undesirable connections. Xiao was taken aback and quickly said, No, that's not true. If you've heard anything suggesting otherwise, someone must be trying to sow discord between us. Xiao was torn between laughter and tears. I never suspected you. I just didn't explain myself clearly. Earlier today, when we were leaving, something happened involving the fourth Princess Consort. Xiao proceeded to recount the entire incident, including how tea had been accidentally spilled on Wuxia and the persistent actions of the maid named Xiang Rui. Xiao scowled. The fourth Princess Consort is truly insufferable. Xiao reluctantly accepted the proposal, realizing that this man was a persistent source of trouble that couldn't be easily shaken off. She put on a brave smile. I turned down their offer directly, but it might make me seem jealous. Darling, if anyone speaks ill of me, you must come to my defense. We should have declined their offer. We have no real connection to the fourth prince's mansion, and accepting such gifts for free would be improper. My dear, you have no reason to be jealous. It's simply a matter of propriety. I'll be the first to reject anyone who dares to speak ill of you. Really? Don't forget that promise, my love. Xiao grinned. I won't forget. I won't let anything harm Xian, even if it means serving the crown prince. Xiao felt a warm rush of affection. Her husband remained the same caring and protective man she had always known. which brought her comfort. Some things couldn't be compromised, no matter how challenging the circumstances. The more Princess Consort contemplated this situation, the more irritated she became. Once the maids had been dismissed, and only Auntie Fu remained to attend to them, Princess Consort couldn't contain her frustration any longer. She slammed her hand on the table and vented her anger. Miss Qiao is incredibly foolish. She's just a servant, and Xiao Yunduan has no interest in Tian Shanshan. He won't be ensnared by a mere maid. What's the point of her taking her back home? Our estate is far too grand for her to reside in. And to humiliate the fourth princess consort right in front of me. Didn't she realize how embarrassing that is for me? Chapter 1310. Princess Consort. She is merely the daughter of a concubine, raised in humble surroundings. Her audacity knows no bounds. Auntie Fu. Don't be upset. Auntie Fu offered tea with a smile. Madame Xiao and Officer Xiao are a young couple, and it's natural for them not to tolerate interference. Moreover, the fourth princess consort's gratuitous gifts are an attempt to force Madame Xiao into submission in front of so many witnesses. It's excessively ostentatious. Madame Xiao's refusal would indeed be a blow to the fourth princess consort's pride, but it would spare you a great deal of trouble. It could even impact Officer Xiao negatively. The princess consort sighed. I understand that fourth sister-in-law has ulterior motives, but I cannot disregard the royal family's dignity. If someone suggests that Ms. Qiao is humiliating fourth sister-in-law, due to my influence or approval, how can I defend myself? Aunt, you know how challenging these years have been for the crown prince and me. Miss Qiao is impulsive. She's just a maid, and we can find a way to manage her without confronting fourth sister-in-law like this. She is not a virtuous person, and she might cause trouble for Officer Xiao in the future. Auntie Fu's eyelids twitched as she asked, Princess Consort, are you suggesting? The Princess Consort pondered for a moment and replied, in a few days, I will assign someone to her, thus quelling the rumors. We should act preemptively to prevent others from exploiting this situation. If she were more virtuous, she would have taken a concubine for Officer Xiao. She's quite short-sighted. Auntie Fu had no words to offer in response to the princess consort's statements. Madame Xiao's public rejection of the fourth princess consort had exposed her character. The princess consort didn't see much difference between her and the fourth princess consort. If Madame Xiao refused again, it would reflect poorly on everyone. If Officer Xiao remained silent regarding Madame Xiao, what was the point of the princess consort's intervention? Auntie Fu did not perceive any bias in the princess consort's attitude towards Madame Xiao. Madame Xiao treated people kindly and displayed great politeness and gentleness, which contradicted any notion of frivolity. However, the situation had unfolded primarily due to the actions of the fourth princess consort. Nonetheless, it was evident that the princess consort was still quite upset about the events of the day. Auntie Fu chose not to dissuade her directly but contemplated for a moment before suggesting, Princess Consort, considering Officer Xiao's involvement, should we inform the Crown Prince first? Officer Xiao's standing differs from that of the other officers, given his refusal of the Tian family. Addressing this matter with the Crown Prince beforehand might help preserve Officer Xiao's relationship with him. They were all well aware of how deeply the Crown Prince valued Officer Xiao, a sentiment not solely rooted in Minister Old Yun's influence. Officer Xiao possessed notable capabilities, and the Crown Prince had spoken highly of him on numerous occasions. The princess consort consistently prioritized the interests of the Crown Prince. Upon hearing Auntie Fu's suggestion, she hesitated momentarily before nodding and agreeing. You're right. I'll discuss it with the Crown Prince tonight. The princess consort promptly instructed the kitchen to prepare dishes that the Crown Prince favored, and extended an invitation for him to join them for dinner, as she had something important to discuss with him. Chapter 1311, Unconvincing. After dinner, the princess consort confided in Qiao Xian about the day's events, her frustration with Qiao Xian evident. The Crown Prince chuckled and inquired about the specifics. She then adopted a serene demeanor. Princess Consort, there's no need for such anger. This is a minor issue, not worth escalating further. The Princess Consort's eyes widened, and she countered. Crown Prince, failing to address Miss Qiao's behavior could lead to complications, especially with Officer Xiao involved. He has no support, and Ms. Qiao's reputation isn't favorable. The Crown Prince's expression grew stern. Princess Consort, after old minister's guidance, I've chosen not to accept any more disciples. However, he has made an exception for Xiao Yunduan, who stands out as a promising officer with a future. He and Ms. Qiao share a close bond and can't tolerate any interference. Ms. Qiao's temperament matches his. So Princess Consort, let us abandon this notion. Today's incident can be attributed to fourth sister-in-law, who didn't press us publicly. Ms. Qiao declined our invitation, which is a minor matter. Don't let it trouble you, Princess Consort. Despite the Crown Prince's reasoning, the Princess Consort couldn't shake off her lingering anger. She felt misunderstood and frustrated. She believed her actions were in the Crown Prince's and the kingdom's best interests. Why couldn't the Crown Prince see her intentions? But she was accustomed to obeying the Crown Prince's decisions. With his stance clear, she held back her objections, forcing a smile as she conceded. I will follow your counsel, but it would be wise for Ms. Qiao to discreetly remind Officer Xiao to avoid any future entanglements. The Crown Prince reassured her. Officer Xiao is no fool, Princess Consort. Rest assured. The Princess Consort nodded, reluctantly agreeing. Very well. What a futile expenditure of her efforts. The Crown Prince, burdened with his duties, returned to his study, leaving the Princess Consort to stew in her frustration for a while before taking a brief respite. They were a united couple, supportive of each other. The Crown Prince's disinterest in the charms of other women made the atmosphere among the wives and concubines in the East Palace harmonious. As the years passed, the Crown Prince's visits to their chambers became rare, occurring mostly on the 15th day of the new year. He maintained a certain respect for her as his primary wife. The majority of his time was consumed by his studies, and Princess Consort upheld her dignity and virtue, never succumbing to envy. She simply couldn't fathom why Qiao Xian showed such devotion to a lowly maid. It seemed utterly irrational. What exacerbated the situation was the Crown Prince's unwavering support for Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan, rendering her indifference to his opinion. Where did this trust in the Crown Prince stem from? Unbeknownst to Princess Consort, both Xiao Yunduan and Qiao Xian were actively, both openly and covertly, extending financial support to the Crown Prince. He had no intention of creating discord over such a trivial matter. Xiao Yunduan was transparent about his actions, not taking credit for any of Qiao Xian's accomplishments. Chapter 13:12. Not at all. The Crown Prince never anticipated that a woman of such capability would stir up any trouble merely due to jealousy. Furthermore, he couldn't help but wonder about the possibility of someone from the fourth prince's estate infiltrating the Xiao family and uncovering something sensitive. Such a situation would undoubtedly pose a significant problem. In his mind, the Crown Prince even entertained the notion that Qiao Xian might be opposing the fourth Princess Consort to protect the secret of generating revenue for him. If that were the case, he would be deeply moved and would harbor no ill feelings toward her. Nevertheless, he knew he couldn't confide in the Princess Consort about this matter. Yet, the Crown Prince had full confidence that the Princess Consort would never act on his suggestions. For him, that assurance sufficed, and it marked the conclusion of this particular storm. However, Qiao Xian had earned a reputation as a somewhat jealous woman, but she remained indifferent to such judgments. After all, what harm was there in earning and counting money? Xiao Yunduan shared her indifference to the opinions of others. In fact, she felt that her beloved wife had been unjustly treated. She made it a point to rush home as soon as her official duties allowed, providing Qiao Xian with comfort and support in various ways. Their intimacy in the boudoir was marked by tenderness and consideration, and their bond grew stronger. Some people attempted to console or even ridicule Xiao Yunduan, suggesting that she should take concubines or consider other arrangements. However, she steadfastly refused, always standing up for Qiao Xian. Xiao Yunduan declined all invitations to visit brothels, earning her the reputation of being an unconventional husband. Now, Qiao Xian knew that these interactions were simply good-natured banter. In their eyes, they were the perfect couple. The princess consort's expression clearly conveyed a sense of vindication, as if she had unearthed irrefutable evidence. She felt compelled to share her discovery with the crown prince, asserting that Xiao Yunduan's reputation should not be unjustly tarnished. However, the crown prince swiftly intervened, cautioning her against entangling herself in their affairs. Xiao Yunduan had no reason to be concerned about the opinions of the elderly ministers. With her support, the crown prince's position was considerably fortified. As long as both Xiao Yunduan and Qiao Xian remained indifferent to minor matters, the crown prince saw no need to become involved. Their relationship was a private matter, not subject to external scrutiny. Frustrated, the princess consort reluctantly abandoned her plan. Consequently, many individuals in the court who had been anticipating a spectacle and hoping to witness Xiao Yunduan's disdain for Qiao Xian were left disappointed. This disappointment was particularly pronounced within the Tian family and the Qiao family. In early August, Zhao Shu returned to the capital from Jiangnan and promptly paid a visit to Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan. Zhao Shu brought with him several bottles of perfume produced at the workshop. They had recently begun crafting scents like gardenia, jasmine, and roses. These fragrances were housed in exquisitely designed bottles, each about 2 inches in length, featuring a slender tube connected to a purple copper cap, allowing them to emit a fine mist of perfume when pressed. To create these perfume bottles, Zhao Shu had constructed a specialized glazed workshop and recruited skilled artisans at a premium cost. Each of these small bottles carried a price tag of 5 liang, but their quality justified the expense. Although the floral field was still in its infancy and the perfume workshop was in the early stages of blending, the perfumes produced boasted rich colors and an exceptionally pure fragrance. No noblewomen, madams, or ladies of the court could resist the allure of such fragrances. Chapter 13:13. Worth the money. This small bottle could fetch a price of at least hundreds of liang. This is the second batch, and combined with the 20 pieces from the first batch, we now have a total of 56 pieces. I have brought 10 pieces with me for Madame Xiao to inspect, and I will arrange a clear distribution channel for the remainder. I will simply market them as imports from the West, destined for Su State and Jiangning. The asking price is 100 taels of silver per bottle. What are your thoughts, Madame Xiao? Qiao Xian could immediately discern the pure aroma and felt pleasantly surprised. She grinned. Young Master Zhao, your capabilities are truly impressive. I hadn't anticipated that you could produce this perfume so quickly. I had expected it to take at least 10 months. The scent is exceptionally pure, and the craftsmen you've engaged are clearly skilled. You must have invested quite a sum. Zhao Shu beamed with pride upon hearing her compliments, his smile nearly reaching his ears. Madame Xiao, your words are too kind. It's your superb craftsmanship that has earned such admiration from the craftsmen. Even some of the stubborn ones, who acted as if they were owed 2 million liang, became quite compliant once they saw the banknotes. We can't just send them packing. It's definitely worth it. For years, he had been mired in pain and unresolved resentment, uncertain about his future. He had even experienced moments of despair. Even if his suspicions were true, lacking concrete evidence made it a futile endeavor. Zhao Mu was his father, always towering over him, rendering him powerless. Until he encountered Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan, who breathed new life into him and provided a fresh purpose. At last, he had his own career. He felt a sense of accomplishment and pride he had never known before, grounding him and filling him with enthusiasm. He was finally driven. He knew that his mother's spirit in the heavens would be overjoyed to see him gather his life's purpose and chart a new direction. Qiao Xian smiled. Those with exceptional skills often possess strong personalities, and they tend to be fiercely loyal. They're a better investment than those solely driven by material gain. Treating them well is not just advisable, it's essential. Don't fret, Madam Xiao. Zhao Shu had never been short of funds, and he had a generous disposition. His smile radiated warmth. I hold them in high regard as well. Am offering 100 liang, and that doesn't even include the year-end bonus you mentioned earlier. It's far more than what they earned during their days in the incense trade. Uncle Qing and I have been discussing the possibility of mentoring bright young talents, ensuring they receive proper guidance. Of course, we'll treat them fairly. Those willing to mentor new disciples will receive extra compensation, or they can choose to mentor independently. However, their apprentices must commit to at least 15 years of service in our workshop. Zhao Shu elaborated on his plan with Uncle Qing to Qiao Xian. Internally, Qiao Xian nodded in agreement. She couldn't deny that in the realm of business, her own knowledge was lacking compared to Uncle Qing and the other seasoned professionals. Uncle Qing and his associates possessed a deeper understanding of the market and exhibited shrewdness and wisdom. They boasted decades of experience in various business dealings, encountering all types of individuals. Their meticulous planning left no room for doubt. Finding a manager with the qualifications and competence to oversee such a venture was no small feat. In fact, attracting such exceptional talent in the market was a near impossible task, unless they stumbled upon an extraordinary stroke of luck. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 13-14. Talk about business. Talents like these were either nurtured by various businesses from a young age or cultivated through individual efforts. Qiao Xian had a clear understanding. She wouldn't involve herself in things she didn't comprehend, and Xiao Yunduan was even more reserved. During discussions with Zhao Shu, he sat quietly by Qiao Xian's side, not interrupting. Initially, Zhao Shu felt uneasy, but he grew accustomed to it over time. Qiao Xian paid close attention and occasionally offered one or two suggestions. Her perspective differed from that of Zhao Shu and Uncle Qing, often enlightening them like a window into their minds. Zhao Shu and Uncle Qing were deeply impressed. It was no wonder that, besides Madame Xiao, Mr. Xiao didn't see anyone else of comparable stature in the entire empire. Regarding the perfume's price, Qiao Xian had no strong opinion, but she suggested that the prices for different fragrances should vary, all converging around 100 taels. Zhao Shu agreed and promised to discuss it further upon returning to Hangzhou. Price differences range from 12 to 34 taels. In any case, this product was precious, and the specific price mattered less. Following that, Zhao Shu shared some news about the Zhao family. After Zhao Mu's second marriage, the Zhao family had become livelier, much to his satisfaction. Qiao Xian also expressed her happiness for him, while advising caution before taking any impulsive actions. Zhao Shu was genuinely grateful. However, he remained resolute in his quest to uncover the truth behind his mother's accidental death, regardless of the difficulties he might encounter. Little did they know that Ms. Qin and Zhao Mu's concubines would soon wreak havoc on the Zhao family, catching them all off guard. This time, Zhao Shu's return was noticeably more relaxed, casual, and indifferent than before. Later, Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan discussed and extended an invitation to Zhao Shu to join them for a meal. Qiao Xian decided to take charge of cooking the food herself. The potatoes in her garden were ripening, and she could begin harvesting them soon. It seemed like the perfect time to dig up some and prepare a meal. On that day, Qiao Xian brought Li Xia and Li Qiao to the field. Initially, the strawberry patch had covered just over 4 acres, but it had expanded significantly due to the continuous growth of stems and vines. The original ridge was now even denser and more lush. This year, Qiao Xian had applied her extraordinary abilities to cultivate an additional 20 mu of land for planting. While each application wasn't substantial, it was enough to keep the strawberries thriving. It appeared that there wouldn't be any issues when it was time to transplant them. Indeed, they would need to keep distributing the seedlings when the time came. However, Qiao Xian knew she had to be careful with her superpowers. She couldn't use them excessively, Otherwise, it might appear quite absurd. For some reason, news had spread about her giving strawberry seedlings to the East Palace. The stewards of the second prince and the third prince had come to her door to express their interest. These individuals were rather arrogant. They clearly wanted a favor but tried to appear indifferent, as if they were merely asking out of curiosity. Their attitude was something Qiao Xian found disdainful. Nonetheless, the strawberry seedlings weren't particularly rare to her. Since they had dropped hints by coming to her, she saw no reason to refuse their requests. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 13-15. Strawberry and Potato. Qiao Xian had initially planned to promote her product, but now it seemed to align perfectly with her intentions. Furthermore, despite the fact that the person who came was just a mid-level manager, these noble households were all concerned about their reputation. They couldn't simply accept her goods for free, so they offered her numerous rewards in return. For instance, in the second prince's residence, there were 2 pouches, each containing a high-quality green jade pendant and a pearl the size of a thumb. In the third prince's residence, they presented her with 2 jars of top-notch Westlake Longjing tea leaves stored in silver tea jars. These cylindrical tea jars had lids, adorned with exquisite songshire patterns. Qiao Xian had provided each of them with 100 strawberry seedlings, a fair and equitable exchange. Treating this as a business transaction had proved to be very worthwhile. The adage that the customer is king held true. One shouldn't expect favors from God. After all, it was a matter of goods and money. With these 2 prominent families starting the trend, many other households sent their stewards to inquire. Given the generous rewards from the first 2 families, it was only natural that others wanted to match or surpass them. Even the least generous household presented him with banknotes worth 50 taels. Qiao Xian had already accumulated tens of thousands of taels of silver. She was nearly finished with this round of benefits collection. If anyone else came seeking her strawberry seedlings, she wouldn't part with them so easily. Regardless of the quantity of strawberry seedlings, they would need time to grow. If these people were willing to be patient, Qiao Xian didn't mind making more money, but she had no qualms turning away those who were not. Jingquan Restaurant continued to serve its usual dishes, and the addition of sweet and sour strawberries led to a significant increase in the restaurant's business. Upon arriving at the garden, Qiao Xian gazed at the vibrant red strawberries scattered amidst the lush green leaves. They appeared plump and exquisite, their allure undeniable, and their cuteness irresistibly charming. It was only natural for the noble ladies and their children to be fond of such an endearing fruit. The garden was teeming with these strawberries, each one a potential source of income. Even vendors ventured into the orchard, politely expressing their desire to purchase several acres worth of seedlings at a high price. At that moment, Qiao Xian refrained from making an immediate decision. She stated that she would consider it, and if there were surplus seedlings next year, she wouldn't mind selling them to others. Strawberries possessed remarkable reproductive abilities, especially the ones that had undergone mutations due to her superpowers. With proper care through the winter, they could thrive continuously. In a few years, their novelty would diminish, and the market value would become more standard. Although it wouldn't command the exorbitant prices seen now, the overall profits would remain substantial if cultivated on a larger scale. Qiao Xian instructed Li Xia and Li Qiao to gather 2 baskets of strawberries, one for herself and one for Zhao Shu, while she personally dug up the potatoes. This yielded yet another pleasant surprise. Each potato plant she dug revealed an impressive bounty. The first one yielded 19 potatoes of varying sizes, including 7 that were as large as fists. Apart from 3 that were only slightly bigger than copper coins, the rest were comparable in size to duck eggs. The second plant filled an enormous basket, providing enough for several days' worth of meals. This remarkable outcome was a result of her unique ability and the meticulous care given by Songshire. Furthermore, this particular potato variety had been enhanced and optimized through her abilities. Even if grown in an ordinary field, producing 7 to 8 duck egg-sized potatoes per plant would be easily achievable. Compared to other crops like corn, taro, peanuts, and beans, the yield of these fruits was significantly higher. In times of scarcity, they could potentially be lifesavers. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 13:16. Abundant Production. Xiao Xian felt a deep sense of satisfaction as she looked at the potatoes. Her heart swelled with pride. These were all the fruits of her labor, and in just a year, she had become the sole producer of such a bountiful potato harvest. With such a high production rate and the plans to scale up cultivation on their own land next year, she knew it was crucial to inform the Crown Prince. Taking credit for it themselves wouldn't be right, so they needed to share the news with the Crown Prince and request that he report it to the Emperor. However, these potatoes were essentially their family's property. Even if they had to contribute a portion to the imperial plantation for seed testing, the majority would remain with their family. In her interspace, Xiao Xian had also harvested some potatoes. When the time was right, she would incorporate them without drawing too much attention to it. After gathering strawberries and potatoes, Xiao Xian and her servant picked a basket of assorted fresh vegetables before heading home. Upon their return, she instructed Qing Yan to send a basket of strawberries to Zhao Shu and extended an invitation for him to join them for dinner the following evening. For tonight's meal, Xiao Xian prepared some spicy shredded potatoes, beef brisket with potatoes, potato pancakes, and 2 other potato-based dishes for Xiaoyunduan. Last year they could only taste the potatoes sparingly, but this year, there was no need for restraint. They could enjoy them to their heart's content. It truly was a bountiful harvest. As Xiao Xian excitedly shared the news of the abundant potatoes with Xiaoyunduan, his eyes sparkled with astonishment and delight. To make her point even more persuasive, Xiao Xian encouraged him to witness the potatoes for himself, almost as if she were showing off. When Xiaoyunduan saw the basket of potatoes, Xiao Xian jokingly referred to them as 2 fruits, causing him to nearly burst into laughter. Last year he had heard his wife proudly extol the virtues of their abundant and delicious potatoes, how they could serve as both vegetables and a staple food. Planting them had truly been worth it, she had insisted. However, he hadn't anticipated just how abundant the harvest would be. The difference between hearing about it and witnessing it firsthand was staggering. Hearing about it might elicit surprise, but seeing it left one utterly stunned. In a year of scarcity, these potatoes could potentially save numerous lives. This is incredible. We must discuss how to inform the Crown Prince, he remarked. There was no way to keep such a matter hidden. Xiao Xian held his arm, raised her chin and proudly said, "Let's wait a bit longer. We can discuss it when the potatoes look even better and are ready for harvest." These potatoes could remain in the ground for another 500 meters, allowing them to accumulate more starch and improve in quality. There was no need to rush. Xiaoyunduan nodded in agreement. "Then we'll wait a bit longer, as you say." Xiao Xian smiled warmly. "I'll try making more dishes to see how they taste. Since it's a bountiful year, you can enjoy as much as you want." Xiaoyunduan grinned. "I'll gladly follow my wife's lead." The following evening, Zhao Shu was invited over for dinner, and several dishes made from potatoes were served. Zhao Shu had grown up in a wealthy family in Jiangnan, a prosperous region with abundant resources, goods, and even access to overseas markets. Despite his extensive knowledge, he had never tasted potatoes before. While there might have been potatoes in Jiangnan, they had never been part of his culinary experience. Zhao Shu was genuinely intrigued by the dishes Xiao Xian had prepared. They tasted exquisite, and when he heard about the potato yield, he was genuinely astonished, despite his limited knowledge of farming. Uncle Qing, who was assisting at the table, couldn't conceal his amazement. The situation seemed almost too unbelievable. Unable to contain himself, he asked Xiao Xian for some potato seeds to plant in the south. Xiao Xian had the same idea in mind when sharing this news, so she readily agreed. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 13-17. They treated us as their own. But let's keep this under wraps for now. We'll discuss it when the time is right, Qiao Xian advised. Zhao Shu, still in a daze, readily agreed. However, Uncle Qing soon recognized the significance of this matter, one that pertained to the welfare of the people, and he understood the importance of keeping it confidential. Lord Xiao and Madame Xiao were implicitly expressing their trust in their master and servant. After dinner, they departed from the Xiao family's residence. Uncle Qing knew that his young master didn't fully grasp the intricacies of the situation, so he proceeded to explain everything in detail. Only then did Zhao Shu fully comprehend the situation. He couldn't help but express his admiration. If we succeed, Lord Xiao and Madame Xiao will make substantial contributions. Uncle Qing smiled. Indeed, but this is a significant matter, and they may choose not to take credit for it. In my estimation, the recognition will likely go to the East Palace, which is why Madame Xiao advised us not to disclose this to anyone. Zhao Shu nodded, understanding the situation. Lord Xiao and Madame Xiao were not individuals who sought recognition, or were foolish enough to claim credit for themselves. However, if they chose to relinquish that recognition, it was evident that it would be attributed to the Crown Prince. Only the Crown Prince could shoulder such responsibilities. But if that's the case, why are you telling us now? Zhao Shu questioned, puzzled. Uncle Qing looked at him with a sigh of disbelief. Fortunately, Zhao Shu wasn't obtuse. He exclaimed joyfully, Uncle Qing, does this mean that Lord Xiao and Madame Xiao are treating us like family? Uncle Qing smiled and nodded. That's wonderful. Zhao Shu couldn't contain his excitement, rubbing his hands together in sheer delight. Uncle Qing smiled and shook his head, offering a gentle reminder. Young master, even though that's true, there are still some matters that must be approached with caution. Zhao Shu smiled somewhat sheepishly and nodded, saying, Don't worry, Uncle Qing. I understand. Evidently, Zhao Shu was quite content to enjoy the spectacle unfolding within the Zhao family, so he didn't linger in the capital for long. He shared 2 meals with Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan, stayed for 5 days, and then departed for the south with high spirits. In addition to his interest in witnessing the ongoing drama, the perfume workshop was also at a crucial stage, which required his vigilant oversight. With just over 50 bottles, it amounted to more than 50,000 taels of silver, effectively covering the entire workshop's investment costs. The next batch was expected to yield at least 100 bottles, recovering all the initial expenditures and turning a profit. The business arrangement offered a generous 40-60 split, a mutually rewarding venture that Zhao Shu found quite enticing. Indeed, such a business was truly captivating. Xiao Xian had initially planned to travel to the south to inspect the progress of her 20,000 mu of fertile land and visit the flower fields in Hangzhou, ensuring the plants could withstand the winter and thrive. She also intended to make a stop at the 100,000 mu mulberry garden along the way. However, half a month later, Prince Nua would lead a delegation to meet the Emperor of Great Qin. The Crown Prince and the Third Prince were tasked with hosting him, and Xiao Yunduan, as the Crown Prince's trusted confidant, had to stand by the Crown Prince's side to assist. Xiao Yunduan had planned to discreetly request the Crown Prince's permission to accompany Qiao Xian on her journey south, but he had to abandon the idea. Qiao Xian wasn't afraid of rumors, but she had earned a reputation as a possessive woman, making it inappropriate for her to venture south alone while leaving Xiao Yunduan behind. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 13-18. The Crown Prince. While Qiao Xian wasn't concerned about people accusing her of jealousy, a bit of apprehension lingered in her mind. Regrettably, she had to reluctantly shelve her short-term plans for now. Once the current matter was resolved, she would arrange another trip before the new year. Seeing her disappointed expression, Xiao Yunduan couldn't help but chuckle. He playfully pinched her cheek and reassured her with a gentle smile, saying, Don't worry, I'll accompany you before the new year. We can enjoy the early autumn scenery by the South River. And if we're quick, we might set off in late autumn. Xiao Xian's face brightened with happiness. That sounds wonderful. Jiangnan must have its own unique charm in the early autumn and winter. And not to mention there should be plenty of crabs. Xiao Xian had been concerned that circumstances might change. Obtaining leave was no easy feat for civil servants nowadays, especially when it meant leaving the capital. Xiao Yunduan was highly regarded in the East Palace, and any departure could raise suspicions of secret dealings or political maneuvering. With these thoughts in mind, Xiao Xian hesitated. She gently tugged at Xiao Yunduan's sleeve, looking up at him as she proposed. How about you don't go? I can go on my own. We can simply inform them that I've gone to a nunnery to partake in vegetarian meals and pray for blessings. I won't be back for a while. Better yet, we don't need to provide any explanation at all. In truth, she wasn't a prominent figure, and her absence for a month or two wouldn't raise many questions. The only person who truly cared about her was her husband. However, Xiao Yunduan wasn't inclined to agree. As far as he was concerned, if they could be together, then they should be together. He had no desire to leave his wife, particularly in this season. Returning to an empty room at night and sleeping alone was a prospect he found quite uncomfortable. Having his wife by his side, even if they simply embraced each other and drifted off to sleep, made for a much more restful slumber. Xiao Yunduan smiled and reassured her. Don't worry, as soon as I mention it, the Crown Prince will make the necessary arrangements for us. There are plenty of tasks that need attention in the south before the new year, so we can be assigned one of them. Xiao Xian was momentarily surprised, but then she playfully tapped her forehead, suddenly realizing the solution. I can't believe I overlooked that. They exchanged smiles. Indeed, Xiao Yunduan could contribute to the Crown Prince's coffers during his trip to Jiangnan before the new year. Like every household, the East Palace had its own substantial expenses to cover before the Lunar New Year. It was an annual endeavor filled with meticulous planning, and at times, even involved diverting resources from one area to another. Few could fathom the extent of their financial struggles. It wasn't that the emperor didn't know how to reward his people. However, the rewards typically consisted of valuable antiques, luxurious clothing, exquisite brocades, and exotic tributes from around the world. Silver, on the other hand, was often limited to a mere 1,000 taels, which was far from sufficient. The East Palace had to maintain its prestige, but their assets couldn't be pawned or sold. If news of such actions were to circulate, it would be a great embarrassment for the Crown Prince. Accusations and petitions would flood the imperial court like falling snow. This year, Xiao Yunduan had discreetly provided 350,000 taels of silver to the East Palace, which had significantly bolstered the Crown Prince's financial standing. It allowed him to undertake endeavors that had previously been beyond his reach. The Crown Prince was delighted with the newfound resources at his disposal. Now, as the new year approached, whenever Xiao Yunduan hinted at the need to travel south to earn money, the Crown Prince would undoubtedly arrange everything for him. After all, who would willingly choose a life of comfort when there were opportunities to make substantial gains? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1319. Looking at industries in the suburbs. While Xiao Xian had forgotten about this detail, Xiao Yunduan had not. Her excitement was palpable. It wasn't a matter of having a poor memory. Rather, she hadn't taken this matter very seriously. Although she had contributed 350,000 taels of silver to the Crown Prince, it was essentially a portion of the 300,000 taels she had originally given him, transferred directly from Zhao Shu. The additional 50,000 taels was a dividend from the perfume workshop that hadn't cost her anything. In contrast, Zhao Shu's finances had seen a significant boost since the previous year. Xiao Xian hadn't attached much importance to the 350,000 taels of silver, as it didn't affect her significantly, so she hadn't considered this matter until now. Finally, it dawned on her. Of course, as a couple working for the Crown Prince, a trip to Jiangnan should be arranged without any fuss. Xiao Xian even contemplated whether the lack of retaliation from the fourth princess consort after their public confrontation was orchestrated by the East Palace. After all, the fourth princess consort didn't strike her as a magnanimous person. Considering these factors, Xiao Xian concluded that earning money for the crown prince might not be such a bad idea after all. Since she had the opportunity to travel to the south before the new year, the exact timing didn't matter to her anymore. With Songsher already overseeing the 1,200 mues of land in Cloudwater Town, Xiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan decided to visit the town together, as Xiao Yunduan would be occupied in the next 2 to 3 days. Upon arriving at the Xiao family's farm in Cloudwater Town, they were greeted by a spacious and well-lit main courtyard. Several magnolia, sweet osmanthus, and pomegranate trees adorned the yard, while local persimmon, walnut, peach, and other trees were planted outside, all according to Xiao Xian's preferences. Beyond the main courtyard, the servants' quarters, warehouses, and storage rooms were all thoughtfully organized and constructed. The tenant houses were situated on the outermost perimeter of the property. Rows of standardized, small courtyard houses, all constructed with green bricks, created a neat and orderly appearance. Even the ground was paved with green bricks, maintaining a clean and well-kept appearance. Each courtyard house was surrounded by structures on 3 sides, with the main building being a uniform, 2-story structure. These courtyards, while modest in size, were equipped with all the essential amenities. All of this had been constructed based on Xiao Xian's specifications. Songsher initially thought it was an unnecessary expense and overly generous to the tenants, but he complied with Xiao Xian's wishes. What Xiao Xian didn't reveal was her underlying rationale. She didn't need to be overly thrifty in this endeavor. Creating a well-organized and aesthetically pleasing farm not only simplified its management, but also fostered a sense of belonging among the tenants, contributing to long-term development. Moreover, the relatively minor expenses incurred could be recuperated easily. In the coming year, Xiao Xian planned to employ her superpowers to enhance the production and quality of watermelons, cantaloupes, and potatoes. Selling these improved fruits and vegetables at a favorable price would quickly offset the investment. His diligence and unwillingness to cut corners left Xiao Xian very satisfied. At the very least, he had passed the initial test of being in charge. He demonstrated a capacity to execute orders with precision and efficiency. Taking in the scene, Songsher met with the servants in the main hall. Chapter 13:20 Meeting Someone. The population was not yet fully settled, but they had already acquired 12 servants through contracts and had secured 10 tenants. Songsher couldn't help but feel a bit nervous. Before stepping inside, he hurriedly offered a smile and said, "This servant has never handled such affairs before. Though I did consult with young Master Zhao's family steward, I'm afraid there may be aspects I haven't managed well. If the master and madam are not pleased with anyone I've acquired, I will sell them off. In the future, I will make more careful choices and pick out the better ones." "Don't be anxious," Xiao Xian reassured him with a smile. "There's an old saying that goes, people are unpredictable, and it's true. No one can guarantee that every purchase will be perfect. I can see that you haven't been neglectful, and if you choose to focus on it later, you can take your time when you gain more experience." Xiao Yunduan chimed in jest. "You usually exude such confidence and poise, so why are you so jittery now? Rest assured, my wife and I won't be overly critical of your choices." Relieved, Songsher let out a sigh and his ingratiating smile became more genuine. Yes, I understand that the master and madam are kind-hearted individuals." Next, the farmers they had purchased were summoned. There were a total of 12 individuals, 5 women and 7 men. Among them, 5 were families, and 2 children were under the age of 10. Meeting their true masters for the first time, the 12 of them were far more nervous and uneasy than Songsher. As a few of them entered, they moved stiffly, as if they were all walking in unison. Even the 2 children under the age of 10 displayed remarkable poise and maturity. Held by their mothers on either side, they were obedient and shy, casting their eyes downward. Adorned in the clean new clothing provided by Xiao Xian, they appeared neat and presentable. Since it was their first encounter, Xian took the lead, engaging in a conversation with the head of the family, Xiao Yinduan. It was a traditional societal norm for the head of a family to be a man. When Xiao Yinduan began addressing them, they would naturally show reverence. Initiating the conversation, Xian could have caused some individuals to be taken aback, perceiving the family as unruly, which might lead to further issues. Xiao Yinduan was a man of few words, and as he looked at each of them, he had a favorable impression, indicating that Songsher had made careful selections. He posed a few straightforward questions, offered some advice, and then Xian reassured them with a warm smile, distributed their rewards, and concluded the meeting. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief and gratefully received their rewards before departing respectfully. Given that they could purchase numerous plots of land, it was evident that the family was affluent. Upon their arrival, they were given exceptional treatment, with ample meals, new clothing, comfortable accommodations, regular meat and fish in their diets, and even a monthly salary, all of which exceeded the expectations of ordinary families. Manager Songsher had mentioned that if the master was unsatisfied, they would not be allowed to stay. However, when they paid their respects to the master, not everyone was anxious. They had successfully cleared this stage, and their relief was palpable. Xian and Xiao Yunduan exchanged knowing glances, sharing the same perspective. However, they recognized that the true situation would become clearer in time. Xian only mentioned that the current 12 individuals were insufficient. They needed to acquire 7 or 8 more. They had to make these arrangements carefully and avoid any missteps, especially in the upcoming year, as they cultivated potatoes, watermelons, and cantaloupes. They would need to be vigilant in overseeing and protecting the crops. Chapter 13:21. Staying for the time being. They decided to purchase a few more intelligent dogs to rear in the future, which would prove beneficial for their patrols. Considering the vast expanse of land, constructing a tall wall using green bricks was an unfeasible endeavor. At most, they could enclose certain areas, and some spots were simply challenging to fence off. When it came to planting potatoes, there was little cause for concern. If someone was unfamiliar with them or lacked knowledge, they were less likely to become targets. However, fruits like watermelons and cantaloupes were highly sought after, and therefore prone to theft. Unless every family in the village planted them, these fruits would be pilfered no matter where they were grown. If villagers occasionally plucked 1 or 2 to satisfy their cravings, it was tolerable. However, vigilance and patrolling were essential, as failure to do so would result in more than just a few missing fruits. Furthermore, they needed to ensure they had a variety of farming tools on hand, including plows, cattle, iron plows, and iron rakes. Songsher mentioned that he had already signed 10 contracts with tenants, but it seemed insufficient. Before the new year arrived, he planned to visit reliable individuals and secure an additional 5 contracts with strong laborers, which should be adequate. Songsher nodded, carefully recording the details one by one, before allowing the tenants to enter and meet with him. The tenants living in the small green brick courtyard were similar to the farmers, exhibiting timidity and nervousness. They were apprehensive that any disagreement with their boss could lead to their eviction. With no shortage of potential tenants, competition among them was fierce, and the landlord had the power to dismiss them unilaterally. Given the excellent living conditions provided by their generous landlord, there was little reason to seek accommodation elsewhere. Being tenants in another household would necessitate building their own houses. Xian and Xiao Yunduan greeted everyone as usual, offering a few brief words of advice on maintaining good behavior and fulfilling their duties. During their employment, individuals could retain their positions as long as they performed well. Those who did not meet the expected standards risked termination by year-end. Finding suitable replacements was not a concern. The constant threat of dismissal kept most employees from taking any impulsive actions. Xian believed that the terms offered to the tenants were quite enticing. As long as they possessed some level of competence and aspired to lead a respectable life, they were unlikely to jeopardize their employment. Leaving the fields fallow was not an option, and it provided an opportunity for cultivation. Additionally, it allowed Songshi to gain experience. In the following year, they intended to cultivate potatoes, watermelons, and other crops. Familiarity with these crops would reduce their management worries. After all, Xiao planned to return to Shaoding village and head south in the spring. Enhancing her superpower was vital for the growth of the mulberry garden and flower fields. It was an investment. Her ability to harness and manifest her superpower depended on this development. So Xiao discussed with Xiao Yunduan and requested that Songshi organize the tenants to cultivate 500 mu of cabbage and 300 mu of white radishes, which had a shorter growth cycle. With Xiao superpower, they could reduce the growth time by 10 days, 8 days, or even half a month. These seemingly small time savings held significant advantages in the market. Furthermore, vegetables nurtured by her superpower were not only tastier, but also of higher quality and longer shelf life. In winter, the capital's residents particularly valued carrots and cabbages. They wouldn't have to worry about sales when the time came. Even if they couldn't be sold immediately, they could transform the surplus cabbages into spicy pickled cabbage, and white radishes into dried radishes, allowing for gradual sales. Songshi, eager to keep busy during the winter, readily agreed when he heard the plan. "Don't worry, old master and madam. I will make all the necessary arrangements diligently. I will oversee daily operations, handle vegetable cultivation, hire and manage labor, acquire farming equipment, tend to the cattle, erect fences, plow the fields, and everything else. Nothing will be left unattended. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1322. Half a Day in the Mountain. Xiao spoke with a warm smile. "We have a lot to discuss, but if you're too busy, just let me know, and I'll have Qingyan assist you with any errands. We have plenty of time, so there's no need to rush." Songshi, ready to carry out his responsibilities, couldn't allow Qingyan to step in. He couldn't even consider it. "I can handle it myself, madam. Please don't worry." Xiao nodded, still smiling, and didn't press the matter further. In the upcoming year, Xiao planned to plant a variety of fruit trees, including pomegranates, persimmons, grapes, apples, peaches, loquats, walnuts, dates, pears, hawthorns, and more. If she weren't concerned about drawing too much attention, she would have included dragon eyes, lychees, mangoes, and grapefruits. Nevertheless, even if she couldn't plant them all, she had them in her interspace. She also intended to raise chickens, ducks, geese, and possibly a few more goats if conditions allowed. This would provide a steady supply of eggs, meat, and even goat's milk. With poultry and livestock, they could be largely self-sufficient. Living in the capital wouldn't mean they lacked vegetables and meat. Since the main courtyard wasn't yet fully furnished, Xiao and Xiao Yunduan prepared to depart. However, it was still early, and Xiao wanted to take a hike in the nearby mountains. Autumn, especially in the advanced season, was the perfect time for mountain hikes. If we're lucky, we might stumble upon some mushrooms in the mountains. There tend to be more mushrooms in the northern forests during autumn, and they're usually plump. With her presence, good luck was almost guaranteed. Xiao Yunduan smiled and agreed. "Sounds like a plan. Let's enjoy lunch here before heading up the mountain. We can ask Wuxia and Qiao to prepare a bowl of noodles." It had already been half a day, and going up the mountain on an empty stomach was out of the question. Xiao agreed with a smile and requested Wuxia and Qiao to use the servant's kitchen to prepare some food. Although there was a kitchen for the master in the main courtyard, it had not been fully furnished yet. Everything was still in the process of being set up, and Xiao and Xiao Yunduan planned to stay here for a few days. Before long, Wuxia and Qiao arrived with freshly rolled noodles, which were slender and pale, emitting a tempting aroma. There wasn't any broth, but there was meat, minced and stir-fried with garlic, green onions, and chili. The dish was garnished with a handful of coriander, and when served, it was steaming hot and fragrant. The two of them enjoyed their meal, and then Xiao and Xiao Yunduan prepared to carry a basket and head up the mountain. Wuxia and Qiao had become accustomed to this routine. They knew the old master didn't want them to be a bother. However, Qing Yan felt a bit uneasy. He couldn't help but quietly ask his two sisters, Sister Li Xiao, Sister Li Qiao, isn't it risky for the old master and madam to go up the mountain alone? We could assist by carrying the basket for them. If the terrain is challenging, we could scout ahead. Li Xiao burst into laughter. You're very clever and thoughtful, but there's no need to worry so much. The old master and madam enjoy mountain climbing, and they prefer doing it on their own. Li Qiao chimed in smiling. Our old master and madam are quite strong. If they say they don't need help, then they don't. Let's just stay here and enjoy the peace of this manor. It's quite nice to explore around. Upon hearing their reassurance, Qing Yan smiled and felt relieved. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1323. Diplomatic Delegation of Qingdi. He was just a playful teenager, and before long he had vanished into the surroundings. Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan walked briskly, enjoying the pleasant autumn weather, neither too hot nor too cold. As they entered the mountains, the cool, shaded air enveloped them, and a gentle breeze rustled the leaves. The vibrant hues of autumn foliage, bathed in sunlight, added to their sense of relaxation. The two of them conversed and laughed, quickly reaching the middle of the mountain. Here they found themselves in a diverse forest with pine, cypress, birch, yellowwood, red maple, linden, blackwood, locust, luan, yellow poplar trees, and various wild fruit trees, shrubs, and vines all intermingling in an organized manner. Such a forest provided the perfect environment for various wild mountain mushrooms to flourish. When Xiao Xian activated her superpower, even mushrooms cleverly concealed amidst the foliage were easily discovered. Before they realized it, their baskets were already half filled with a variety of mushrooms, each boasting different appearances and sizes, but all exuding a fresh and delightful aroma. When cooked, they promised to deliver exceptional flavors. This should suffice for a few days' worth of meals. Tonight, we'll stew some with chicken, stir-fry a plate with beef. Tomorrow at noon, we'll combine them with pork and shrimp to make stuffed buns. Tomorrow night, we'll use the chicken to prepare a clear soup hot pot, and simultaneously, we'll create a spicy hot pot. It's been a while since we've had hot pot. Xiao Xian laid out her plans with a smile. Xiao Yunduan agreed, placing the basket in a nearby bush and guiding Xiao Xian to sit under the shade of a tree. The view here is splendid, and the ambience is wonderful too. Let's linger a bit longer. They stayed on the mountain until the shadows grew longer, and a chill began to set in. Eventually, they tidied up their belongings and basked in the warmth of the setting sun as they descended the mountain and returned to the city. That evening, they prepared a savory stew of old hen and fresh mushrooms. Its aroma wafted far and wide, and the soup was nothing short of exquisite. Xiao Xian couldn't help but think that owning a manor in a distant place away from the capital would be a fantastic idea. There, amidst numerous mountains and treasures, they could relish the joys of culinary exploration to their heart's content. In the following days, Xiao Yunduan found himself immersed in a whirlwind of activity. The arrival of the diplomatic delegation from Qingdi was fast approaching, with the delegation expected to reach the capital 5 to 6 days earlier than originally planned. This abrupt change significantly compressed the already tight preparation schedule. Government officials and everyone involved in the matter found themselves tirelessly occupied, their tasks keeping them constantly on the move. While Qingdi was a vassal state in the northern region, it held considerable influence. What made it unique was its historically strong and amicable relationship with the Great Qin Empire. The emperor attached great importance to the upcoming diplomatic delegation from Qingdi, going so far as to express a desire to host them exceptionally well. This despite his focus on alchemy and politics. The crown prince, the third prince, and others dared not disregard these instructions. Furthermore, the Qin dynasty was known for its prosperity and tranquility, and it prided itself on being a mighty nation. Any misstep in entertaining the Qingdi delegation could tarnish the reputation of the empire. They couldn't bear the thought of embarrassment, even if Qingdi didn't openly criticize them. The crown prince would undoubtedly bear the brunt of the blame in such a scenario, potentially facing impeachment once more. The fourth prince had been biding his time, refraining from making any overt moves. While the crown prince had enjoyed a comfortable life as a result, it was common knowledge that the fourth prince and honored princess may harbored no intentions of giving up. Meanwhile, the second and third princes kept a watchful eye on the unfolding political drama, poised to seize any opportunity for personal gain. They might have appeared to play their part dutifully, but they were ready to take advantage of the internal strife without hesitation or restraint. Chapter 1324. Busy treating. When it came to hosting foreign diplomatic missions, it was only fitting for the crown prince to take charge, a duty that also reaffirmed his stable status as the crown prince. Declining this responsibility was not an option for the crown prince. Even if the emperor harbored dislike for him, he would have seized this opportunity. Given the circumstances, there was no ideal solution. The only course of action was to make every effort to excel in this role and remain vigilant against the third prince's schemes. Finally, on September 11th, Prince Nuanua of Qingdi arrived in the capital with nearly 300 individuals in tow. The crown prince instructed the third prince to lead officials from the Ministry of Rights, Ministry of Revenue, Honglu Monastery, and the East Palace to go outside the city to welcome Prince Nuanua and his entourage. The crown prince himself, attired in full court regalia, assembled the two princes and a retinue of civil and military officials to establish a ceremonial guard within the intermediate court, awaiting their arrival. As the crown prince, it was not deemed necessary for him to personally greet the Prince of Qingdi outside the city. As for the Qixian emperor, he held little interest in Prince Nuanua. With the crown prince acting as the host, all that mattered was that he didn't compromise the nation's dignity. His primary focus remained on cultivating his body and mind, refining elixirs, and seeking immortality. On that day, a grand banquet took place in the palace, with the crown prince hosting Prince Nuanua. Xiao Yunduan also attended the event, returning home late that night. Upon entering the room, Qiao Xian was already awake. She mumbled a few words in her drowsiness, and upon seeing him get into bed, she snuggled into his arms and fell back asleep. Xiao Yunduan chuckled, placing kisses on her cheeks and forehead. He felt content and soon drifted off to sleep himself. The following morning, Qiao Xian awoke to find Xiao Yunduan had already left. She smiled and shook her head. Lately, the entire capital was abuzz with discussions about Prince Nuanua's visit to pay his respects. Previously, Qingdi and Xifan had been locked in a fierce conflict, with the towns along the northern border of the Great Qin Empire feeling the brunt of the hostilities. The three factions even engaged in several battles. However, Qingdi later extended a hand of goodwill to the Great Qin Empire. With their support, they effectively defeated Xifan, pushing them even farther away. This led to a significant increase in Qingdi's strength and territorial expansion. Initially, Qingdi was deeply appreciative of the Great Qin Empire's assistance and fostered a strong rapport with them. Yet, over time, Qingdi's arrogance resurfaced, resulting in provocations against the Great Qin Empire and the looming threat of renewed conflict. Only when old king of Qingdi's health deteriorated, and the younger princes proved to be formidable counterparts to the Great Qin Empire, did both sides inexplicably reach a state of reconciliation and peace. However, for the past decade, Qingdi had not sent a diplomatic mission to the Great Qin Empire. Now that a delegation had finally arrived, purportedly to pay respects to the Great Qin Emperor and offer tribute, the sense of pride within the Great Qin Empire was palpable, particularly among the capital's residents. This pride ran deep in their veins, leading to an increase in discussions on this matter. Given these circumstances, the crown prince and his entourage, responsible for hosting Qingdi and their delegation, could ill afford any errors. Failure to meet public expectations would not only disappoint the commoners, but also risk accusations of the crown prince neglecting the nation's dignity, an attribute that a ruler must maintain without reproach. In the Eastern Palace, everyone, including the crown prince's faction, was on high alert and exceedingly cautious, fearing any misstep. Their lives were far from easy, and the pressure weighed heavily upon them. Even Qiao Xian, normally active and outgoing, had recently adopted a low profile. She seldom ventured outside, even refraining from grocery shopping. Instead, she delegated these tasks to Wuxia and others, preferring to maintain a discreet presence. Chapter 1325, Princess Consort Summoning. Qiao Xian went to Cloudwater Town to emphasize to Songshu the importance of avoiding conflicts at all costs, regardless of the circumstances. She stressed that in situations where progress was challenging, there was no need to rush or become anxious. When faced with difficulties or peculiar situations, Songshu must remember not to make decisions independently but rather report them. Every aspect of their daily operations needed to be meticulously managed and handled with great care. There was a saying that even a 1,000-mile dam could be destroyed by an ant's nest. Failure to catch mistakes at the East Palace could potentially lead to a situation where they slowly and insidiously orchestrated issues from a small scale, eventually implicating the East Palace or even the Crown Prince. Such occurrences had transpired in the past. Regardless, Qiao Xian was determined not to make any mistakes. However, she hadn't anticipated that Princess Consort would send for her to visit the East Palace. Auntie Fu, who was accompanying Princess Consort, didn't appear to be in great spirits either. Qiao Xian grew anxious and inquired about the situation. Auntie Fu wore a bitter smile as she replied, "Madam Xiao, please don't worry. It's not a major issue, but it's also not particularly significant. Madam Xiao, please accompany me to the East Palace, and you will learn all the details when you meet with Princess Consort." Although Auntie Fu's response didn't provide a clear answer, she conveyed that the matter was not serious. Qiao Xian trusted Auntie Fu's judgment. "Very well, I'll trust your judgment," Qiao Xian replied with a relieved smile. Auntie Fu smiled back, relieved that she hadn't pushed for further details. Qiao Xian was received by Princess Consort in the daily living area. She couldn't help but notice the initial frown on Princess Consort's face upon her arrival, indicating that she held some reservations about her. However, Qiao Xian couldn't fathom how she had managed to offend Princess Consort, considering she hadn't even left the house for a while. Princess Consort greeted her and offered her a seat. "We're on the same side, so there's no need for formalities," Princess Consort began. "Ms. Qiao, Prince of Qingdi, has requested a few specific dishes, and our imperial chefs are at a loss. We heard that you possess culinary skills, and am uncertain whether you can provide a solution. If you can, we would greatly appreciate it. If not, Auntie Fu, please provide her with the details." Princess Consort sighed and rubbed her temples, appearing somewhat distressed. The court, the East Palace, and the nobility had enlisted the finest cooks in the world, but none had managed to devise a solution. Princess Consort harbored doubts that Qiao Xian could achieve what others could not. The Crown Prince didn't know who had suggested involving Qiao Xian, but it seemed like a last-ditch effort. Yet, what other options were available apart from this final attempt? The Great Qin Empire was renowned for its abundant resources and capabilities. Yet Prince of Qingdi had merely requested a few dishes and remained unsatisfied. It was a situation that left no room for embarrassment. The Great Qin Empire couldn't afford to lose face, and neither could the Crown Prince. The origins of this issue were not particularly complex. The Great Qin Empire valued etiquette and extended warm hospitality to Prince Nuanua and the delegation, as per their customs. However, such niceties were not well received by the uncivilized and proud state of Qingdi. Initially, they may have held some fear and reverence towards the Great Qin Empire. However, the empire's graciousness and hospitality inadvertently fueled their arrogance. The sheer opulence of the Great Qin Empire only heightened their envy and amplified their pride, making the situation even more awkward. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1326, Acting Insatiably. Coincidentally, the drill ground competition that took place 2 days prior had traditionally been Qingdi's forte. Their diplomatic mission had approached the event with an air of anticipation, eager to showcase their prowess by besting the generals of the Great Qin Empire. They aimed to demonstrate their might and strength to the Great Qin Empire. However, could the Great Qin Empire possibly lose such a competition? Would the empire compromise its dignity? Even though the Qingdi representatives were courageous, formidable, and robust, did the Great Qin Empire lack exceptional soldiers of its own? Was it possible that such talent couldn't be found within the ranks of the Great Qin Empire? The outcome was quite evident. The Qingdi participants, brimming with valor and enthusiasm, suffered a resounding defeat. They couldn't find any excuses for their loss, which only added to their frustration. The crown prince, displaying benevolence, couldn't bear to witness their crushing defeat. He discreetly ordered his side to yield, preventing an excessively humiliating defeat. Yet it didn't sit well with anyone. Every participant was a skilled expert who recognized their opponent's concession. This knowledge left them even more aggrieved and disheartened. Prince Nua in particular wore a grim expression, his anger unvented. In an attempt to mollify their guests, the crown prince hosted a banquet that evening, displaying even more enthusiasm. Qingdi maintained an amicable relationship with the Great Qin Empire, and the peaceful border allowed commoners to lead peaceful lives. Nobody desired a war. The crown prince aimed to foster friendship and goodwill, and he had no intentions of causing embarrassment to their guests. However, the Qingdi delegates regarded such diplomatic gestures as pretentiousness. They failed to recognize the dignity of a great nation and lacked magnanimity. Instead, they perceived the empire's hospitality as arrogance. Furthermore, as the Great Qin Empire grew increasingly polite, it only deepened their feelings of frustration and resentment. During the banquet that evening, Qingdi's deputy envoy, Deci, caused a stir by presenting a list of dishes he expected Great Qin's chefs to prepare. This situation threatened to embarrass the crown prince. However, it was Xiao Yunduan who casually diffused the tension by saying, "It's getting late. I'll have everything ready for you in a couple of days." He nonchalantly pushed the issue aside. Prince Nua chuckled and agreed, expressing his eagerness to savor these dishes. The situation appeared to be a guaranteed success. Following that, the crown prince instructed everyone to brainstorm their own ideas and consult the chefs in their respective residences who might be able to solve this culinary challenge. The reward mentioned by the crown prince was no ordinary reward. It amounted to at least 500 taels of silver, and perhaps even 2 priceless antiques, a significant honor. Everyone coveted this honor. Yet, none could readily fulfill it. The crown prince and others didn't find this strange at all. It was clear that Vice Envoy Deci, Prince Nua, and the rest weren't seeking fresh and unique dishes. They were deliberately making things difficult. The deliberate nature of their challenge made it a formidable task to resolve. This situation was primarily the third prince's fault. He had hastily boasted about the abundance of delicacies in Great Qin, and their capability to prepare any dish, only to be outmaneuvered by Vice Envoy Deci's single remark. The third prince subsequently distanced himself from the situation, feigning ignorance and disassociation. He passed the responsibility to the crown prince. Left with no other choice, the crown prince had to accept the challenge, transforming it into a difficult dilemma. The prince was discussing with his staff and confidants. One of them mentioned Xiao Xian, saying that Madame Xiao was very smart and she was very good at cooking, and she might be able to solve the problem. He might as well ask Madame Xiao. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1327, Unconcerned. Xiao Yunduan enjoyed high regard from the crown prince, and many of the crown prince's ministers and advisors held him in high esteem. Nevertheless, a few individuals harbored jealousy and sought to undermine him, actively seeking opportunities to cause trouble. What Xiao Yunduan was unaware of was that his words had struck a chord. Xiao Xian's reputation had flourished when she revived the only peony flowers in the palace and introduced strawberries to the capital, quickly becoming a favored fruit among the ladies and children. Such achievements were not easily attainable for ordinary women. More importantly, the crown prince had come to know that Xiao Xian was not only capable, but also skilled at generating income. Xiao Yunduan had made it explicitly clear that all the wealth from the south had been earned by Xiao Xian. Hearing these words, the crown prince, sensing a glimmer of hope in a dire situation, agreed, saying, "Indeed, Madame Xiao should give it a try." Internally, Xiao Yunduan cursed those colleagues who harbored ill will toward him and seemed perpetually determined to create difficulties. However, the crown prince's response had been swift, leaving Xiao Yunduan with no opportunity to object. In an attempt to set the record straight, Xiao Yunduan stated, "Miss Qiao is fortunate to receive such high regard from the crown prince, but she is not particularly knowledgeable. Her expertise lies in gardening and farming, and in cooking, she is only slightly more skilled than the average person. While she enjoys cooking, she does not possess the culinary prowess of the imperial chefs or other professional cooks. Crown Prince, please pardon her if her efforts fall short." Xiao Yunduan felt compelled to articulate these concerns. The crown prince responded with a smile, saying, "Certainly, we are merely exploring possibilities. We acknowledge our lack of expertise in the culinary arts, so Madame Xiao may bring a fresh perspective to the table." Xiao Yunduan continued with modesty, attempting to shield Xiao Xian from any further involvement. If possible, he preferred that Xiao Xian not become entangled in these matters. Since Xiao Xian was a woman, it was not appropriate for the crown prince to directly involve her. Xiao Yunduan couldn't leave either, so he arranged for someone to inform Princess Consort about the situation. Princess Consort promptly instructed Auntie Fu to bring Xiao Xian to the East Palace. Despite feeling bewildered and somewhat dissatisfied, she couldn't help but think that the crown prince had lost his sense of propriety in his anxiety. Could Miss Qiao's culinary skills really address such a serious matter? Princess Consort harbored doubts. The crown prince held Xiao Yunduan in high regard, which extended to Xiao Xian. However, Princess Consort had reservations about Miss Qiao's abilities. Princess Consort assumed that the crown prince's affection for Xiao Yunduan had led him to overestimate Miss Qiao's capabilities. She wasn't entirely convinced. Nevertheless, as the crown prince's wife, she felt obligated to follow his instructions, and decided to call Xiao Yunduan over to inquire further. Even though she believed it might be unnecessary, Auntie Fu didn't provide Xiao Xian with the full details, but simply informed her that Prince of Qingdi had requested a few dishes, and seemed to be deliberately causing difficulties. Given her reputation for culinary skills, she wondered if she had any ideas for resolving the situation. Xiao Xian was taken aback. She couldn't recall ever boasting about her cooking skills. She believed that her husband, Xiao Yunduan, would never praise her in such a manner. He preferred that she remained inconspicuous, and he would avoid drawing attention to her whenever possible. In the capital city, it seemed that no secrets could be kept for long. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1328. Qingdi making things difficult. Auntie Fu exclaimed. The first dish is a concoction of both chicken and fish, each prepared in a unique way. The second dish offers a delightful contrast of flavors, both cold and hot. Now the third dish is a live braised carp. Xiao Xian, who had been quietly shocked all along, couldn't hide her surprise when she heard about the live braised carp, turning to Auntie Fu instinctively. Auntie Fu sighed and explained. It's not your typical braised carp. It's a carp that remains alive even after the braising process. Xiao Xian was left speechless. Who would have thought that Qingdi, often criticized for their perceived lack of manners, could also display such culinary sophistication? It was clear that if they didn't know what they were doing, they wouldn't have attempted something so extraordinary. Princess Consort couldn't contain her frustration, even though she was already aware of the situation. Qingdi has gone too far. Their behavior is utterly unreasonable and absurd. I observed that the Crown Prince acted with kindness and patience, deliberately avoiding any conflict, Auntie Fu added. Xiao nodded in agreement. Exactly. As the Crown Prince, he must exhibit benevolence and tolerance, even in the face of deliberate provocation. He has no choice but to accept it, no matter how challenging it may be. Failure to do so would diminish his stature as the Crown Prince. Auntie Fu agreed. Indeed, it is the Crown Prince's responsibility to maintain his composure in such situations. The fault lies not with him but with those who seek to test his mettle. Princess Consort remained silent, her anger still simmering beneath the surface. Auntie Fu, sensing Qiao might feel neglected, tried to divert the conversation. Madam Xiao, those Qingdi individuals can be quite troublesome. Do you have any suggestions on how to handle this situation? Qiao pondered for a moment before responding. Considering that Qingdi's intention seems to be to find fault rather than truly appreciate our cuisine, our goal should be to present them with dishes they cannot fault. If we succeed in this, the matter should resolve itself. Princess Consort sneered, wearing a displeased expression. Everyone is well aware of that. His implication was clear. There was no need for him to state the obvious. Xiaoxian's smile returned as she continued. I have a plan regarding the 1,000 chickens and 1,000 fish dishes. Auntie Fu was delighted, but Princess Consort's frown deepened, cautioning. This is a matter of great diplomatic importance between our two nations. Let us not act impulsively, for we risk becoming a subject of ridicule and diminishing the Crown Prince's standing. We should not attempt to create a dish with exactly 1,000 chickens and fish. Such an endeavor might lead to accusations of deceit, tarnishing Great Qin's reputation. Princess Consort added, her words halting before she could fully express herself. Perhaps she had not intended for Qiao to provide her insights in the first place. Without the Crown Prince's involvement, Qiao might have refrained from speaking further. Princess Consort, rest assured, I won't be careless. For the 1,000 chickens, we will take a single chicken claw from each of the 1,000 chickens, and for the 1,000 fish, we will use one whisker from each fish. This way, we can create the dish while ensuring transparency. I'll instruct the chefs to handle the ingredients meticulously, and we will maintain a record of every raw material used. If Prince of Qingdi and his delegation harbor any doubts, they can inspect the ingredients individually to verify our honesty. I guarantee that we won't cut corners, Qiao reassured with confidence. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1329 Trick. Princess Consort and Auntie Fu were taken aback. Auntie Fu hastily inquired, treasure in the palm? What does that mean? Qiao explained with a smile, shedding light on her idea. Auntie Fu turned towards Princess Consort Dao, her face glowing with excitement. Your Majesty, Madame Xiao's idea is brilliant. It seems quite workable. What do you think? They were discussing the challenge of preparing 1,000 chickens and 1,000 fishes, a test set by Qingdi to create difficulties. Madame Xiao's proposal was a fitting response, a tit-for-tat strategy. Princess Consort was pleasantly surprised. She hadn't anticipated such a creative solution from Qiao. Her eyes brightened as she slowly nodded and smiled. This idea seems plausible. Now what about the other two dishes? Qiao was equally prepared for the other challenges. Addressing the seemingly impossible task of creating a dish that was both cold and hot, Qiao suggested casually, for the dish with contrasting temperatures, we can encase ice in a batter and deep fry it. By serving it before the ice melts, we can achieve the effect of being both cold and hot. Princess Consort. Auntie Fu. Princess Consort's expression remained puzzled, and Auntie Fu struggled to hold back her laughter. Madame Xiao, what an ingenious idea. Truly remarkable. Princess Consort, though she found herself admiring this unconventional solution, couldn't help but voice a concern. But can deep-fried ice cubes truly be considered a dish? Other challenges proved relatively straightforward. While the idea of deep-frying ice was initially incredulous, the skilled chefs, with well-mixed batter and quick execution, could overcome this obstacle. Ice was readily available year-round for the royal family, making it easily obtainable. Before Qiao Xian could elaborate, Auntie Fu voiced her discontent. Your Highness, you are as benevolent and considerate as the Crown Prince, but Qingdi has crossed a line. Why should we engage in a fruitless argument with them? They're clearly trying to create difficulties for us, and we shouldn't be compelled to play by their rules. We have the final say in this matter. Qiao Xian silently concurred with Auntie Fu's perspective. Princess Consort seemed to have been bound by excessive decorum for too long. After pondering for a moment and realizing her limited options, Princess Consort reluctantly nodded and sighed. Very well, you're right. What's your alternative then? Subconsciously, Princess Consort turned her gaze towards Qiao Xian, indicating her belief that Qiao Xian could resolve the issue. Qiao Xian, aware of the deliberate challenge thrown her way, wasn't contemplating cooking techniques, but rather how to outmaneuver Qingdi and leave no room for objections. Her approach to problem-solving was unique, and her intelligence shone brightly under pressure. Her train of thought diverged from the norm, yielding entirely different outcomes. Moreover, she possessed a rudimentary knowledge of cooking, which, coupled with her keen wit, allowed her to devise a creative solution. With a brief pause, Qiao Xian's lips curled into a sly smile as she declared, "Their demand is absurd. How can a cooked fish be alive? It's not a matter of making things difficult. It's a matter of shamelessness on Qingdi's part." Absolutely. Princess Consort concurred with Qiao Xian's perspective, her tone resolute. But even though we understand that, we must find a way to resolve this. The reputation of our empire is at stake, and the Crown Prince cannot afford to be seen as ineffectual. As the Crown Prince, he was expected to navigate and surmount any challenges that arose. There was no room for compromise. After a moment of contemplation, Qiao Xian's eyes lit up with determination as she said, "If Qingdi is resorting to such shameless tactics, we cannot simply acquiesce. I do have a plan. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1330. Barely an idea. Isn't it just a live braised carp? Instruct the Imperial Kitchen to prepare a braised carp and 2 to 3 live loaches. Before presenting the dish, carefully place the live loaches inside the stomach of the braised carp. As Princess Consort and Auntie Fu stared in bewilderment, Qiao Xian felt a tinge of embarrassment and cleared her throat before continuing. The loaches are sensitive to heat, causing them to wriggle and struggle. Their movements will also trigger the carp to react. Voila! We have a living braised carp. Auntie Fu couldn't help but chuckle. Princess Consort, attempting to stifle her laughter, raised her handkerchief to her face and coughed discreetly. Is this feasible? Qiao Xian replied. It's just an idea based on my knowledge. I couldn't think of any other solution. The concept had actually been inspired by a dish Shed encountered in the past, a specialty known as loach drilling tofu. Back in her hometown of Shaoding village, whenever she expressed an interest in cooking, a group of eager assistants would lend their support. Shed attempted the loach drilling tofu dish once before using plump, lively loaches, but the endeavor had failed. The loaches hadn't managed to burrow into the tofu as expected. Although the resulting pot of loach tofu soup had been delicious and deeply flavored, it had not fulfilled the desired criteria for a successful loach tofu dish. Contemplating the braised carp challenge had unexpectedly brought this memory to mind. Auntie Fu chimed in with a reassuring smile. Princess Consort, fret not. I share Madame Xiao's sentiment. Those individuals from Qingdi are behaving completely unreasonably. Why should we not turn the tables and make things right? Princess Consort found herself without a rebuttal. Her dilemma lay in her lack of alternative ideas. Moreover, this matter could not afford any further delay. The banquet was scheduled for the following night. If the dishes weren't presented, how could Great Qin avoid becoming a laughingstock in the eyes of Qingdi? How would the Crown Prince, the 4th Prince, and the 2nd Prince, Those responsible for receiving Prince of Qingdi and his delegation respond to the situation. As these concerns swirled in Princess Consort's mind, she grew increasingly anxious and irritated. She eventually conceded, "Well, I'm not certain if this method will work. I'll have someone report it to the Crown Prince later, and he can make the final decision." She turned her gaze towards Qiao, offering a gracious smile. "In any case, Madame Xiao, you've put forth a great effort, and am truly grateful. Xiaozhen, fetch the red box from my dressing table." Promptly, Xiaozhen retrieved a small, finely crafted vermilion wooden box resembling a conch shell. It was a delicate piece. Handing the box to Qiao, Princess Consort beamed and said, "These golden hairpins are a personal favorite of mine, and I believe they will complement you beautifully. Consider them a gift." Qiao accepted the box with gratitude. Whether or not the hairpins were the Princess Consort's cherished possession, she accepted them with grace upon the Princess Consort's generous offer. The golden hairpins featured a thumbnail-sized gem in vivid red, adorned with pearls the size of green beans. Their design depicted butterflies and peony flowers, exhibiting exquisite craftsmanship. They could be considered a rare treasure. With her mind preoccupied, Princess Consort didn't engage in further conversation with Qiao, instead instructing someone to escort her home. Back at home, Wuxia and Qiao were fraught with worry over Qiao's absence, relieved to see her return. "Madam, are you all right? We were so worried." Qiao reassured them with a smile. "Don't fret, I'm perfectly fine. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1331. Is it solved? Xiao Yunduan served as an aide to the Crown Prince. Wuxia and Qiao suddenly recalled this fact and couldn't help but share a hearty laugh. After a brief conversation, Qiao returned to her bed to rest. Meeting Princess Consort was really tiring, so she decided to forego her initial plan for the evening. She had intended to prepare salt-baked chicken and fry a pair of crispy squab pigeons, coincidentally accompanied by a sour and sweet plum sauce for dipping. Additionally, she had prepared a plate of garlic and ginger mixed with sesame oil, perfect for seasoning the salt-baked chicken. However, a lingering issue at the East Palace remained unresolved. It was best to keep a low profile and avoid causing any further disturbances. The potential repercussions of such actions would not be favorable. Qiao couldn't help but feel a bit annoyed. Why did people insist on praising her culinary skills? Since when had she and her husband become such prominent figures, subject to clandestine scrutiny? Xiao Yunduan had been returning home late every night, and this evening was no exception. However, there was a difference tonight. Qiao had deliberately stayed awake to wait for him. Upon his quiet return, Xiao Yunduan entered the room and found Qiao, who was preparing to climb out of bed. He took her hand and joined her, sitting down together. "Why are you still awake?" Qiao blinked and chuckled. "I was waiting for you." "So, how did it go? Has the issue been resolved?" Xiao Yunduan lowered his head, smiling warmly as he gazed at her. "Yes, your idea was excellent. I knew it had to be your ingenious plan." His wife had always had many strange and good ideas. He knew this better than anyone. Qiao did not understand what he meant. She looked confused. Of course it was her idea. Needless to say, Xiao Yunduan wore a sardonic expression as he shared. "The steward who reported to the Crown Prince mentioned that Princess Consort and Auntie had an extensive discussion with you and eventually devised a few ideas. I can't say if they'll be effective, but I've relayed them to the Crown Prince." The steward readily attributed half of the credit to Princess Consort. Naturally, such a move wouldn't have occurred without Princess Consort's guidance and consent. According to the hierarchy, it was only fitting for the Princess Consort to receive credit. Regrettably, Qiao remained unnoticed. Some individuals even harbored envy and deliberately disregarded her contributions. Xiao Yunduan gently held her hands and whispered, "I understand that these ideas were your creation. Don't be upset. We don't need the recognition. I hesitated to share this with you, but upon reflection, it's better to inform you. At least it provided her with some reassurance. The moment these ideas were introduced, Envy, known for her sarcasm, couldn't resist lavishing praise upon Princess Consort for her wisdom and intelligence. Naturally, others either agreed or felt compelled to concur. Xiao Yunduan, though he recognized the truth, found himself constrained by the circumstances. Qiao Xian. It wasn't that she was entirely indifferent to the situation. Qiao Xian simply found it hard to fathom. After all, Princess Consort had consistently exuded an aura of dignity and refinement. It was difficult to imagine that someone of her stature would claim the credit for another's work. She hadn't yet witnessed the full spectrum of the nobility's ambitions and the cutthroat politics they navigated. Regardless of how poised and graceful Princess Consort appeared, she was not exempt from the prevailing customs. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1332. Losing face in exchange for the Crown Prince's misfortune. Naturally, Princess Consort harbored hopes of receiving praise and recognition from the Crown Prince, which would solidify her position. Despite not feeling well, Qiao Xian remained unperturbed. Before long, she regained her composure, leaning into Xiao Yenduan's embrace and offering a gentle smile. Don't fret, my dear. I didn't seek any personal gain from this. Whether I receive recognition or not doesn't matter to me. What's important is that we've resolved the issue. Those individuals from Qingdi were truly unreasonable. Xiao Yunduan agreed. Indeed, my wife is truly magnanimous. Regardless of what others do, the Crown Prince knows. They exchanged smiles. Xiao Yunduan continued. After thorough discussion, we implemented your idea collectively. You've proven to be superior to many others. The behavior of those from Qingdi was truly excessive. Their actions could indeed be described as going too far, and the Great Qin Empire had essentially connived with it. As the saying goes, they had pushed their luck. They couldn't surpass Great Qin's strength, and in their envy and insecurity, they sought to find fault and outdo Great Qin in certain aspects to assert their worth. This experience had taught the Crown Prince that he shouldn't be overly courteous or accommodating to the Qingdi delegation. Achieving peace along the northern border wouldn't hinge on winning them over with kindness. It depended on Great Qin's strength and posture. Upon witnessing Great Qin's strength and recognizing its stance, the Qingdi delegation dared not act recklessly. The Crown Prince was not without a temper, and this diplomatic delegation from Qingdi had indeed tested his patience. Therefore, despite devising a solution to the issue, they had kept it a secret, even from the other princes. The individual responsible for receiving the diplomatic delegation continued to furrow his brow as he grappled with finding a solution. This situation greatly pleased the Qingdi delegation, fostering a sense of superiority and vindication. Their stay at the inn was considerably more enjoyable, as they finally felt they could hold their heads high and reverse the tables in their favor. The third prince, fourth prince, and others grappled with mixed emotions. On one hand, they harbored a longing for the Crown Prince to stumble in his handling of foreign diplomatic missions. They saw an opportunity to magnify any mistakes, tarnish the Crown Prince's image, and potentially garner the attention of their father, provoking his anger and disappointment. However, on the other hand, they found the actions of Qingdi's representatives utterly reprehensible and shameless. As princes of the Qin Empire, they felt a deep sense of anger and disgust. They wished for these Qingdi individuals to be taught a lesson. During a conversation between the fourth prince and honored Princess Mei, they discussed the matter at hand. As the fourth prince expressed his concerns and hesitations, honored Princess Mei couldn't help but sneer. My son, you still haven't grasped the essentials of the situation. If the fate of this empire falls into the Crown Prince's hands, where do you think we will stand in the future? In my opinion, it's better for the Crown Prince to face adversity. What does it matter if Qingdi gains an upper hand in this situation? Such cunning ploys hold little significance. The crucial aspect is that if they win, the crown prince will suffer. If the crown prince suffers, our opportunity will come. The fourth prince's eyes lit up, and he responded with a smile. Mother, your insights are truly profound. Am the one who has been naive? Indeed, considering Great Qin's formidable strength, losing face seemed inconsequential. Trading that slight loss of face for the crown prince's misfortune was a remarkably favorable deal. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1333. Watch the face slap tonight. The fourth prince couldn't hide his delight as he gloated. Qingdi's people are clearly provoking trouble deliberately. Their demands are entirely irrational and baseless. But third brother, that fool, is too arrogant, pressuring the crown prince to concede. Right now, the Eastern Palace is in utter disarray. I doubt they can come up with a solution. Honored Princess May responded with a disdainful smile, mirroring the fourth prince's sense of satisfaction. Isn't this just perfect? I dissuaded you from taking on this role back then. Do you see now? Such matters are highly prone to mishaps. Even the slightest error, no matter how minor, can tarnish the nation's reputation and the ruler's prestige. It provides others with ample ammunition to criticize you. If you perform well, it's merely your duty. Nothing good comes of it. The fourth prince was wholeheartedly convinced. A similar conversation took place in the Empress Qining Palace. While the situation had stemmed from a slip of the third prince's tongue, it hardly mattered. Currently, the third prince maintained complete silence, behaving as if nothing had transpired, and shifted the blame onto the crown prince. In the blink of an eye, the night had arrived when the crown prince was to prepare the requested dishes for entertaining Qingdi's diplomatic delegation. As outlined by Vice Envoy de C, Xiao Yinduan had urged Qiao Xian to retire early when he left in the morning, cautioning that he might return very late, perhaps even past midnight. Qiao Xian agreed with a smile and kissed him farewell. She hoped for his success tonight and eagerly anticipated hearing all the details tomorrow. Such a significant event in the capital would undoubtedly be a major topic of conversation. That evening, the crown prince hosted a banquet in the East Palace. All the princes, ministers, nobles, and trusted advisors of the crown prince were in attendance. The crowd held varying sentiments: curiosity, anticipation, or schadenfreude. The entire capital was aware of Qingdi's unreasonable demand, and the Eastern Palace had offered substantial rewards to anyone capable of resolving the issue. Regrettably, even with such enticing incentives, no one had stepped forward to volunteer. She had heard that the East Palace was in a state of great anxiety today. She wondered how the night would unfold. Prince of Qingdi, Vice Envoy de C, and the rest were well aware of this situation. At the banquet, they wore smug expressions, eagerly anticipating Great Qin's embarrassment. Even the selfish fourth prince and third prince clenched their teeth in frustration, silently hurling curses. They wished they could confront them head-on. Before long, the crown prince arrived. Everyone greeted him with politeness, and the crown prince maintained his genteel composure as he instructed everyone to take their seats. After some pleasantries, Prince Nua and Vice Envoy de C exchanged knowing glances. With a hearty laugh, Vice Envoy de C exclaimed, "Crown Prince, why not have the dishes served promptly? A banquet hosted by the Crown Prince must feature an array of delicacies. We've arrived on empty stomachs and can hardly wait. By the way, Crown Prince, you've surely ordered the dishes we requested in advance, right? After all, Great Qin is a nation of etiquette. You wouldn't renege on your promise, would you?" Though infuriated, the officials dared not retort. Instead, they glared at the Qingdi delegation while muttering curses under their breath. Shameless, utterly shameless. The Crown Prince couldn't help but seethe with anger. Yet, as he contemplated the impending humiliation he would endure, a sense of resignation washed over him, offering a semblance of solace. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.